What is going on, diehards, degenerates, gamblers, investors? How's everybody doing this evening? Welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast for your last show of the year, folks. This is the last MMA event of 2022, so we got to do it right. We got to do it big. I hope you're all having a wonderful Monday, coming off an absolutely insane weekend of fights. UFC 282 was everything they could have promised, and maybe just a pinch, a little smidge extra more than that with all the controversy and things going on in there. I just want to shout out the chat real quick. My guy Alawan Dream saying that he can't catch the show, obviously, because he's doing his coaching thing. You go kick some ass, my man. Thank you for jumping in the chat way early to make sure I see the message. I appreciate you, my guy. Grateful dude. Jared Cory in the chat saying 2 goats, 1 podcast. Don't Google that. You might get a virus on your computer. Bufo on the beat. How's everybody doing today? Thank you guys all again, as always, for the love, for the support, for riding with me. I do have to give a special shout out to my guy Brandon Weed, who sent me a little good faith tip over the weekend, hoping for some good karma. Brandon, I hope you absolutely kicked some ass. And of course, the man himself, Michael Lunday, who has been consistently pulling that move, supporting me year in, year out on this show since I started all the way back in damn near 2019. So thank you guys. Means the world to me. Everybody do us a favor and smash the like button. I know you're going to hit the like button, because how else would I close out the year than the man himself, my co-host, my friend, the best other podcaster on any platform you could ask for, none other than MMA Lock of the Night, man. Preet, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm very happy to get this spot here for the last card of the year. Been an eventful year. We had a bunch of titles change hands, and even titles that are now in limbo because of what happened this past weekend that we're I'm sure we're going to touch on real quickly here. But Clint, always a fun time doing podcasts with you, and going back to the roots, right? Going back to breaking down fights. This is what got us to this point in our careers, and this is what people mainly jump onto our shows and listen to us for. So let's hopefully end it off with a bang here. Interested to hear what your thoughts are on a lot of these fights, and I have no idea where your head's at for any of them. You have no idea where my head's at for any of them. So hopefully we get some dissension to get people thinking both sides of each fight, and maybe we can end up with some extra cash in our tickets this weekend.
That's always the plan, man. And yeah, for people that don't know, like, this is where the bromance began, right? Like, we just started randomly doing shows together, and, we started doing the Deadlock podcast, and we do a couple of extra things on the side with each other. And because of that, we don't do the regular show together very often. So this is a special treat. It's going to be fun for everybody. Shout out my guy Vegeta in the chat saying I don't get to watch live often. Today is the day. Last stream of the year. Thank you, a fellow Vegeta lover there, shouting it out. We've got Jong Lee saying Monday Night Football parlay for the D-Gens. Oh, Jong Lee put me on the spot here. So I like the Cardinals tonight, plus the 3 points. And then if you're going to do like a same game parlay or something like that, I assume, since there's only one game, Kyler over rushing yards 30, and then over receiving yards 30 for Ramondre Stevenson. 3-legger. There you go. All right, everybody. Let's just get straight. Oh, you know what? There was one thing real quick before we get into the breakdowns. This has been a long 2022 with my guy Lock of the Night, basically, screaming from the mountaintops, Rocky IV style, that Magomed Ankalaev is the next champion at 205 pounds. There's been a little verbal jousting going on because I'm a Jamal Hill truther. Oh, Locke. I mean, the draw, buddy. You were this close, and now you just have to watch Jamal Hill get gold wrapped around his waist in a couple of weeks. How do you feel, man? What are your thoughts?
I am going to be the biggest Glover Teixeira fan come January at Open. He goes out there and spoils the plans of Jamal Hill. No, but in all honesty, yeah, exactly. Just to spite you, that is literally the only reason. Because in reality, I'm a Jamal Hill fan, man. Like, just because I like Ankalaev doesn't mean that I can't like Hill. But I do love the guy, and it's awesome to see him to get this opportunity. But I'm even happier for Glover Teixeira, who is the odd man out of this whole situation, given the Yuri Prohaska injury and where it put him. But now it worked out for him. He gets to fight on the date that he had suggested to the UFC that he would fight against Ankalaev, and not the way people expected it to happen, but it still happens here. I guess you want to quickly talk about the decision here and see what we're getting there. After reviewing it, after watching the tape and watching the fight back, honestly, I'm okay with the draw. That is a perfectly fine scorecard to me. There should not be a Blachowicz scorecard in there. That's where I think one of those judges got it wrong. But even if he had gotten the correct scorecard, it still would have gave us a draw. So the way that you could go about it is round one is the pivotal one. That's the one where it could go either way. I watched that round back 2 or 3 times, and honestly, it is dead even. Even if they gave it a 10-10, I'd be okay with that. But that even give it either way. But it's round 5. Round 5, you need to score as a 10-8 to give us that draw. And only 2 of the judges gave it a 10-8. To that other judge, I'm not sure what he was smoking, but that was clearly the most damage that was impacted in that entire fight was round 5 with that constant beat down there. So yeah, I'm fine with the draw after reviewing the tape. I know a lot of people are up in arms about it, but round 1 was really the one that a lot of people were going back and forth about. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but Ankalaev, not the champion.
I hear you. Our guy Adam in the chat says had it 1, 2, 3 for Yan and 4 and 5, 10-8 for Ank. So he agrees with you that the draw was appropriate.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can go either way in round 1. But yeah.
I would love to needle you just a little bit more about it, but no. I was actually at my annual McLean House Christmas party, and I had to quickly get caught back up with the live tape. It was one of those disappointing situations where as soon as everyone left the house, I immediately turned on the fights, and it was round 5 of the main event. So like I watched the end of the 5th round and the fallout of what happened and the crazy talk and the scorecards. Haven't gone back to rewatch the full fight yet. I don't know, man. I'm one of those people where I've got a hard time if I already know the result. It's hard to be super invested because there's no tension of like, is the knockout going to happen? Is he going to catch him in this triangle? Like, no, I know it's going all 5 rounds. So like, I'm going to have to go back and rewatch the entire fight, and then I will let you know. I do just want to say, though, I didn't quite get to the bank pulling the trigger on Jan Blachowicz, but like, man, put some respect on my man's name. I was talking all week about how the money line was too wide. I thought about it. I didn't end up getting there, but like, from what I hear, it was a very competitive fight up until that 5th round. So, one of those spots where I just got to support my guy.
I'd say up until the 4th round. The 4th round is when Ankalaev actually started going to his grappling, got him to the ground, and controlled him for at least 4 minutes in that round. But yeah, the rounds 2 and 3, absolutely butchering the legs of Ankalaev. Ankalaev had no answer for it until he remembered that he can wrestle, which is what ended up happening in rounds 4 and 5. So, shout out to Ankalaev for making the mid-fight adjustment, championship level type shit, but should not have been in that position to begin with, because before the leg kicks started having their effect, he should have already been going for the takedowns. But all in all, very, very flat. Clint, like I was on cloud 9 going into the decision of the co-main event because I had that Jared Gordon ticket and I had a bunch of degenerate parlays riding on Jared Gordon there as well. And then I'm like, if there's any fight that I'm going to get screwed on a potential decision, it is Paddy Pimblett fighting on the co-main event of a pay-per-view with all the eyes on him. It's likely going his way, and unfortunately I was correct in that aspect, but got a damn good performance out of Flash Gordon for sure.
Yes, we did. And look, I got to tell you, I had one of the weirdest results of my entire betting career.
I saw that.
I broke even. I broke even. I mean, literally dead even, 0-0, not 0.01 negative. Like, I actually broke flat even, which is really weird because I had lines in there like Chris Curtis plus 145. Then, how did the juice equal out? Cashed a nice little plus money banger on my guy in Bellator, though, on Friday night. So I am positive for the weekend, even though I broke even in UFC. Happy to get, even just a little win, scraped it by there. But dear God, you guys, if anybody, you have permission to punch me if I back Alexander Hernandez against a cardio fighter ever again. I only played the knockout prop, okay? And with the way that first round went and the cut that got opened up, like, I'm not going to say that plus 550 was a bad bet for the knockout prop, but like, Locke, right before the fight started, I sat there staring at the fight doesn't go the distance at even money. And I'm like, that's the bet. Like, that is absolutely the bet. And then I was like, 550 on the KO. I'll just sprinkle that. No, you idiot. Like, just take the under. Either guy can win. So I feel a little bit stupid about placing that bet. But seriously, like, I don't know what my deal is. The power of Alexander Hernandez sucks me in. It's got to be the biceps. Like, he weighs in and I'm just like I don't know. I end up betting him every single fight and I'm not happy about it.
Man, Billy Q is an absolute G for taking the ass whoopings that he continues to take and then come back and pull it off afterwards. I wish that he got it into the third round so I can cash my third round prop tickets on Billy Q, but I'll take the win anyway because I had him inside the distance at plus 155. Knew Hernandez was going to be dangerous early. He even almost got the finish of his own, but luckily Billy Q gets it together and does Billy Q things. But shout out to anybody that had the fight doesn't go to decision. That was the bet. That was probably the safest bet, knowing that both these guys are going to go balls to the wall. And if it goes late, which it did, Billy Q gets his hand raised.
Yeah, and that's what, like I said, man, it's those spots where I've got the winner in hand and I mess it up that I really get annoyed with myself at. But shout out Chris Action Man Curtis. Like, oh my beast. Guy. I am a little bit frustrated with him, though, that he couldn't just drag it one more because I had the over 1.5. And that was, I mean, it's funny. You look back on it and you're like, ooh, it only cashed by like 10 seconds sweaty. It's like, no, it wasn't even sweaty. Like, it looked like it was going a full 15 minutes until he deaded the guy right after the 1.5 round mark. So, like, he could have finished in the back half of that second or that third round pretty much at any point he, wanted to connect well, obviously. And that's kind of, the read I had on Chris Curtis in that fight. Had the round 3 sprinkle, had the money line, had the over 1.5. I was this close to taking the whole bag with my boy Chris Curtis on Saturday, man.
Honestly, I that's the fight that I have yet to see other than the knockout, because I was actually doing a radio spot. Shout out to our guys over there. I tapped out. But I was on that thing and all I saw was a knockout, so I didn't actually see how that fight played out. In terms of not being able to cash the over 1.5, there were a ton of fights that were just on the edge of either cashing their overs, right? Like they were right there. What's the other one here? Edmund Shabazi and Dalchalun Gimbula, that was 2.5 minutes past the mark. There was one that was like 1 second off. Ponzinibbio and Moreno. The under cashes with 1 second.
Thank God I didn't bet that one, Locke, because I talked all week about maybe getting the over 2.5 on that one. I dodged that bullet.
And the under 2.5 of the Duplessis and Till fight misses by 13 seconds. Like just so close for a lot of these totals. I feel bad for anybody that was on either side there. I was on the under 2.5 in the Ponzinibbio fight just as a degenerate bet, so I was happy that it cashed the way that it did. I saw the knockout transpire, and I'm like, oh my God, did the under hit? I wasn't even paying attention. And then thankfully I was able to rewind and check that out. But man, great card though. Entertainment-wise, great card. A lot of people are kind of shitting on it in terms of the name value that was on the card outside of Paddy Pimblett. But I thought it delivered, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, 8 finishes? It's hard when a card has that kind of volatility to not have it just be fun one way or the other. So, yeah, man, lots of drama on the 2 big events, obviously, but the rest of the card was a banger from start to finish. Ended well. Great way to round out the year, if you ask me. We got one more to do, though. We got one more card, and this one seems like another one that could have some potential banger upside on it. Got to shout out the sponsors real quick. Pub Sports Radio, Superbook Sports. Again, we got 40 live viewers in here on a Monday night for the last show. Everybody liked the shit out of this stream. Let's blow one last fight up before we end the year. My guy Locke had one more thing to say before we get going here.
Yes, thank you. I just want to give a quick shout out to Chris Brown, the MMA fighter from LFA. He's been grinding on the regional scene forever. One of the longer veterans on the LFA scene, picks up a big win this week. Beautiful liver kick knockout where you see the guy visibly crumple and fall, like trying to walk away, fall across the cage and fall down. So Chris Brown gets the or I believe it's the welterweight title, if I'm not mistaken, and gets back on the UFC's radar. That's 4 straight wins now as an underdog. And gotta believe that he's finally going to get his crack in the UFC. Will he be a big fighter and make some waves? I don't think so, but I think a fighter that's been grinding that long on the regional scene, especially with LFA, eventually deserves at least a crack in the UFC. And I think that is what Chris Brown is going to get this weekend, or hopefully next year, and we'll see how far he can take it.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I was watching LFA at the end of that for some reason, and I saw that fight. People think some of that stuff is like, I don't know, staged, or you wouldn't react that way. Like, as someone who's been kicked in the liver before, trust me, no, that's exactly what happens. Like, your shuts down, but it's a delay. It takes a second. Watching him like scramble across the cage, try to recover, couldn't, and then curl up in a ball. Like, yeah, that's a liver shot, baby.
Beautiful striking work from Chris Brown.
So good. I do want to shout out my guy, Boof on the Beat. Thank you for the reminder. Hey, for those of you who have not been paying attention, I started doing a sharp action report on the UFC pay-per-view cards. I call up my guy, Andrew, over with Superbook Sports. He lets us know what come in across the table, if some of their sharper players have jumped on a certain side or something like that. Absolutely destroyed it this week and passed all that information on to everybody for free. Jairzinho was the easiest bet on the board. I only put 1.75 units on him. I wish I had gone harder on that, because my guy Andrew said that their second most respected bettor had come in and laid a hefty amount on that spot. So yeah, we all could have tailed that to glory if we had gone a bit harder in the paint on it. I hope you guys cashed out and got some good information on that, and keep an eye out for that for the big pay-per-view cards in 2023 for sure. All right, everybody. No further ado, we do actually have a new card to talk about, and I want to apologize ever so quickly here, because I know everybody was all excited about the new graphics and shit like that. Folks, I am reverting back to the Tapology graphics for this final card of the year, because I need to sharpen it up just a little bit. You know, looking back on it, I wasn't quite happy with how the graphics turned out. I wasn't quite happy with the look. So I need to make it nice and clean. I've got a couple weeks between, you know, the end of this year and the start of next year that I will get some nice, sexy graphics for us moving forward. So tonight we're going old school. I know, Justin. I know. I'm sorry. All right. First fight of the night. We do have Sergey Morozov taking on Arizona native Journey Newsom. And Journey Newsom, Locke, is a guy that I cashed in very nicely in his last fight as a big underdog. This kid's scrappy. He's 10-3, BJJ black belt, trains out of Impact. And his big thing is he's got a wicked guillotine on him. He's not afraid to jump the gilly. Big kicking game. I mean, we're talking like peels his leg back like he's going to kick a field goal and then shatters his opponent's, legs with those things. He's got a stiff jab. He throws the spinning back fist, lots of flying knees. To be honest, I don't like his method. I'm not a fan of the way he fights. It kind of reminds me of Mark Diakiese, how he fought his last fight with Michael Johnson, where it's like, nothing's working until it does. Like, he's explosive. He's got power. He's going to catch people. At a certain point, there will be lower level guys that he'll be able to get out of there with these kinds of moves. But man, some of these more crisp and clean and methodical style fighters, they're just going to be able to see what he's doing and outmove and outpoint him. And on top of that, I'm a little concerned with his durability, because he has been knocked out in the first round twice. Domingo Plarte and Randy Couture both absolutely starched him. And then in that fight with Ricardo Ramos, he got dropped bad in that first fight. Like, he wobbled badly. He was able to recover, stayed in the fight, but he got mauled for the rest of that one. So I'm a little worried about his chin. Sergey Morozov, 18-5, always carries a decent pace on him. Lots of wrestling, tries to smother his opponents with that top game. He's good in scrambles, looks for the back takes, attacks the arm triangles, situations like that. I was super high on Sergey Morozov, Locke. This was a guy that I was like, pin that man's name, like, watch out for him. We might have to back that up just a little bit. He seems like he's almost regressing ever so slightly. His last couple of performances haven't looked fantastic. He tires out in the second round. Both of his UFC losses are by sub in the second round, but he's got 8 KO wins. He's one of these guys that's been a bit of a decision machine in the UFC. I kind of think this is like a bounce back spot for Sergey Morozov, where the UFC's given him an opponent that's got, some recent shine on him that he should be able to just dominate. And honestly, Locke, might even knock out. Got to shout out our guy, Kyle Marley, MMA royalty, in the chat tonight. What's up, Kyle? Thanks for watching the show, man. I think it's Sergey Morozov here in this spot, Lock, personally. And I really wanted to make an argument for Journey Newsom. I really did. I mean, with the way he attacks chokes and the way we've seen Sergey Morozov get like kind of almost club and subbed recently, you could say maybe there's a finish upside, the banana peel for Journey Newsom. But beyond that, I don't see how he beats Morozov over 15 minutes. Minus 245 Sergey Morozov, plus 205 Journey Newsom is of Superbook Sports right now. What's your look on this one, man?
Pretty much the exact same thing as you, man. Like I was big on him coming into the UFC. I had my expectations for him as well. I was able to cash him as an underdog against Khalid Taha, which, that line I thought was absolutely outrageous that we were getting that night. Just because he lost to Umar Nurmagomedov the fight before that, he's a big dog to Khalid Taha. I didn't understand that. So happy to get that cash there. And then I had him as a lock of the night play against Douglas Silva de Andrade at chalk. And the guy close to finishing Silva or de Andrade early in that first round, blows his gas tank, throwing the kitchen sink at him, and then eventually gets knocked out himself in that second round. I was hoping that he would rely more so on his grappling that night. Didn't work out for him, but after getting rocked and hurt and dropped early by Holly and Paiva, then he remembered how to wrestle in that second and third round. That's why he was able to get that win over Paiva. And I think I can't recall if I bet Paiva that. No, I did not bet Paiva that night, but I did kind of noticed that the line was a little bit too wide. And I kind of feel the same way here, right? Journey Newsom is a guy similar to you as well that I was able to cash him as an underdog against Fernie Garcia in his last matchup. But like there are relative unknowns about him still. I did actually bet him as a dog against Randy Costa as well, because I expected, should that fight have gone later than however long that it lasted, that he would likely take over, as is anything with Randy Costa fights, as we've found out as his career has progressed as well. But Newsom has solid BJJ, like you said, BJJ black belt. I think it's been about just under a year since he received his BJJ black belt. His striking is kind of improving, but I just don't like his process of doing it either. Like that first round against Fernie Garcia, it's like me playing EA UFC. The guy's just throwing spinning back hits and flying shit, and I'm like, you're gonna gas yourself out trying to do this the entire time. But luckily he was able to reel it in. Fernie was kind of gun shy, it seemed like, but a lot of what Journey Newsom was doing was forcing him to be gun shy. So in this matchup, I want to see the value in Newsom, but I really can't get to the betting window with it. I'm not trying to tie myself to minus 240 on the Morozov side either here, but I do think it's going to be the wrestling, which he has now learned the hard way is the way to go. Like there's no other way to keep this fight close other than trying to strike with this guy. You're a proven veteran from the Russian regional scene. You've had your ups and downs. You've had great winning streaks, but you know what works for you. And that's wrestling. Hopefully he goes out there and employs it here and he could grind this fight out over 15 minutes. I would be more so looking at the overs in this fight if it's at a good enough number. The props are still dropping as we're speaking in regards to that. But I do like the Morozov side here to go out there, grind this fight out, and pick up a decision. But minus 240, no bueno. I'll stay on the outside. I'll keep my eyes on the overs here, though.
Okay, fair enough, man. I mean, I'm glad we line up on the side here. I'm going to be interested to see the props. I would be interested in a Sergey Morozov knockout prop if the number was juicy enough, because like I said, I really worry about Journey Newsom's durability, the way we've seen him hit and the way he reacts poorly when he gets connected with. He also kind of forces those type of car crash engagements when he blitzes in and throws the spinning stuff. A more sophisticated striker is going to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. I think this one could be an inside the distance type of shot. And like I said, he's got that finish upside as well with the guillotines and the chokes and the way Morozov has kind of shown that he can gas out a little bit sometimes. Like I'd be almost on the opposite from a total. I'd be looking violence here.
I think we're going to see that safe approach from Morozov where he just tries to grind this one out. Newsom is dangerous, like you said, but I don't know. Well, got to play it safe, Morozov. Let's try to get a couple wins together now because he's been exchanging wins and losses over his last 4 fights.
Yep. Hey, he's coming off a loss though, right?
He is coming off a win, so it means he probably Morozov coming off a win right now. So the pattern says Journey Newsom wins.
For my pattern people, Journey Newsom is due.
There you go.
All right, everybody. Next fight up we want to talk about is David Dvorak taking on Manel Kape, and I will never ever forget when Tajik Bey got me on Twitter. Because he set up a, next fight, this, you know what I mean? You know how he does. He always tags the fighters and puts them at there. He does the matchmaking thing right after after a fight is over. And I did not realize that he had tagged the fighters in the photo. And I accidentally was talking shit to Manel Kape without having any idea
Oh,
that
no.
he was tagged in the photo. So like, you guys know me. I don't do the drama thing. I like to respect the fighters. The only fighter etiquette with gambling is you pat them on the back and you thank them if they win for you. You just leave them the fuck alone if they lose for you. We have to talk about their upsides, their downsides, their skill sets. But God, guys, don't go out there and assault the fighters when they either lose a bet or if you think they're not skilled, or like, they just don't need that shit from us, right? Especially because you're going to be their biggest fan in 2 weeks when they have a better matchup. You don't want to ping pong back and forth and piss them off that way. I had no idea Manel Kape was tagged in this stupid fucking photo. So I've been talking about how he's XYZ, not going to beat this guy this way, this how. And then he replies to me and I got roasted from a bunch of like Asian Twitter handles.
Oh my
Somehow
God.
my hate, because that's where he's super big, is overseas from before he came to the UFC.
Yep.
I had to like hit the Twitter translate button to see what these people were saying to me, but I got a ton of backlash from fans of his from over there. Anyway, never going to forget that.
What did you say?
I see Manel Kape.
What did you say? That's my question.
I think it was Matt Schnell. I think I was talking about how Matt Schnell's jiu-jitsu or something. I can't remember. It's been so long now, but it was some suggested fight. And I talked about how somebody would like, tie him in knots or, something like that. And he was like, I'd beat the shit out of that. I was like, oh, fuck.
Whoops.
My bad. So David Dvorak taking on Manel Kape. We've got Dvorak is 20-4. Kape is 17-6. Dvorak kind of disappointing in his last return, right? Taking on Matthias Nicolou, a guy who's really just taking over the division by storm right now. I've talked about how he is an elite fighter that, he got dropped from the UFC. We're still seeing him kind of work his way back, but the skills are all there. So not a bad loss to take from a guy like Nicolou. Dvorak likes to move forward constantly, hard chopping low kicks. He likes to chop that tree down. Heavy, fast hands when he gets into boxing range. He's got a hell of a chin on him. This guy showed that off in the Nicolou fight. He got dropped several times and did the stank leg, was able to survive and stay in that fight, but a little bit concerning. It showed a little bit of a chink in the armor for a guy who, frankly, I thought was one of these indestructible types at this weight class. Manel Kape is 2-2 in the UFC, but frankly, it was the fight IQ that let him down in those 2 losses, not the skill set. He's incredibly athletic. He's an A-plus athlete, fast, explosive. Both of his wins are round 1 finish. He's one of these guys that if you are not on his level, he will boot you from that octagon. Plays with his hands down. He explodes in with flying knees and punches. Lots of movement. And then when he gets you hurt, he flurries. Incredible killer instinct from this guy. If you get pinned up against the cage, he will absolutely destroy you like he did against Zhalgas Zhumagulov. This dude has 11 wins by KO, 80% takedown defense rating. I think we're in for another relatively technical striking match in this one here, Locke. And I was really disappointed by the odds on this one because when I did the tape, I'm like, man, everybody's going to be talking David Dvorak. Even though he lost that last fight, he's still going to be kind of the hot commodity here. I would like to bet Manel Kape, but I'm like, man, I want like minus 145, minus 150. Yeah, that's where it opened. He's minus 240 now. David Dvorak is a plus 200 underdog. And this is where, the gambler in me is like, we don't bet people, we bet numbers. Like, I can only look to the dog because of how far this line has gotten away, I feel like. But I think it opened correct. Like, if I could get a minus 160 on Manel Kape, I would be betting that right now. I do think he wins this fight, and especially with the way we saw Dvorak kind of wobble a little bit in his last fight, it wouldn't shock me if it was by finish. What about you?
Yeah, I have the same approach with you here as well. Outside of backing the Manel Kape side here, the odds are wide enough that I am interested on the David Dvorak side. Like, we're talking a guy that was minus 125 going into that fight with Matthias Nicolou, and a loss to him, a high level talent, now makes him a plus 200 underdog to Manel Kape, who is known to make fights close because he sometimes just doesn't pull the trigger enough, or he's not consistent enough with his output. Like, the numbers will tell you that he is 6 significant strikes landed per minute or something like that. But there are spots where a pressure fighter like David Dvorak, who attacks the leg as much as he does and lets go with combinations in that boxing range the way that he does, he will be live in this fight. Now, the reason I shouted out Chris Brown earlier in this podcast was the fact that fight is a prime example of betting numbers rather than fighters. And I think that, if you were giving me minus 120 on his opponent that night, maybe I'd go with his opponent because he looked explosive, looked like he had a ton of potential, all that. But the fact of the matter is he never fought any high level talent. So you give me plus 375 on a tested veteran like Chris Brown. Of course, I'm going to take a shot there. And it paid out. It could pay out this weekend as well with David Dvorak, because the skill set does not warrant a plus 200. People just remember Matthias Nicolau hurting him and dropping him and the bloody face and, just seeing Nicolau have as much success as he did. But the fact of the matter is Kape does, unless he finishes you early, his fights are kind of close once they go to the judges' scorecards. And David Dvorak might be showing some diminishing durability. And if there's anybody that's going to expose it, it's Manel Kape, but not at minus 240. That line is way too wide. And David Dvorak has the chops to go out there and mix this fight up. He doesn't just have to strike with Kape. He has a decent wrestling game. He has some good top pressure as well when he's able to get fighters to the ground. But I think if he stays consistent enough with that leg kick, which he's known to do, maybe he takes that explosiveness out of Manel Kape. Maybe he takes that and is able to start to parlay it into his own pressure, his own momentum, and start marching forward and landing his own strikes. Maybe even landing some takedowns behind that as well. So line is just too wide. I know I'm likely going to get scorched for this all week if I'm going to be hammering the Dvorak side, because all people are going to remember is him getting rocked and dropped. And Manel Kape has some big power in his hands, obviously finished his last two opponents. But you see those fights, they're a lot closer even than the odds in those fights indicated. And then he goes out there and pulls off the knockout. So I think tying yourself to maybe Kape by knockout might be the better way to go about it. Or if you have those double chance props where you can go KO or decision. But I think that Dvorak is very, very live in this matchup. And there's a good possibility he might end up being my dog of the night play for this week, because that plus 200 number is just too nice for me to pass up in a fight that I expect to play out relatively close.
That's fair, man. That's fair. This is one of those ones where I'm not really interested in going against my own read. So I'm going to say Manel Kape gets the win. I can absolutely understand a fighter like Christian Dvorak is a solid plus 200 underdog. That's the kind of guy that you want at plus 200 odds. And like you mentioned, Manel Kape does have a history of making fights closer than they necessarily need to be. I've been burned betting him before those first couple, events in the UFC. I did lay the wood with him thinking he'd get it done, and he let those slip by him. So I am not laying minus 240 on Manel Kape. He's going to be my pick to win. I'm going to go ahead and say he gets his hand raised, but I don't think I'm betting this one.
Good on you, my friend. I can't wait to see this one go down, and hopefully I can cash my plus 200 ticket there.
I will be cheering my ass off for you as long as I don't find my way to a different bet.
Why iota?
Yeah. All right. Bryan battle. Taking on Rinat Fakhretdinov. The last time Fakhretdinov fought, I had no idea how to say this man's name, so I feel a little bit better about the breakdown this time around. Bryan battle, your Ultimate Fighter winner, your most recent Ultimate Fighter winner, 8-1 in the UFC. He's on a 3-0 run, Lock. This guy has looked good. Looks like an absolute beast at 170 pounds. This guy, the head kick he landed on my poor friend was incredibly painful for me to watch, but I'm very excited about him. I'm a Sato fan. I'm one of those guys. So didn't want to see him go down that way, but man, I mean, filling in on short notice here, gotta like the matchup if he's pulling that kind of a move, right? Knows full well how to use that height and reach advantage. He's got that big knockout power. He also danced around Tresean Gore for 15 minutes and picked and poked and jabbed at him and teeped at him and completely battered him for 15 minutes straight. Like, get you a man that can do both, right? Like, if this guy wants to play chess with somebody, he can. If he wants to go in and nuke somebody, he can. So Bryan battle is somebody I definitely have my eyes on. And on top of that, he got chin checked by Gore. Like, we may not think Gore is the greatest thing ever, but that power is real, and we've seen what it can do when he catches people. Bryan battle, as my guy Liam Picks Fights would say, got audited, and he passed that test, man. He absolutely took those bombs and kept coming. His opponent, Rinat Fakhretdinov, 20-2, kind of a padded record. I'm still not entirely sure what to make of the guy. Lots of 0-1, 0-0 types of fighters he faced before getting to the UFC. Loves riding that body lock. This guy is impossible to get off you if he gets around your hips. Lots of knees to the body and the legs while he's got you in the clinch. He'll drag you, kick your feet out from under you to get you to the floor at all costs. And then he wings those big, heavy power hooks to close the range. Everything designed just to get into that clinch and pin you up against the cage. He absolutely broke Michailidis. Now, Michailidis not, someone we all want to write home about, dropping a weight class at known gas bags. So again, not the most impressive last fight. He did what he had to do. He got the win, but over somebody who I definitely question. I'm looking at the Ultimate Fighter champion Bryan Battle here in this spot personally, Locke. I know Fakhretdinov may be a kind of guy that can give him a problem matchup, stylistically speaking, someone who can present different issues, dragging him to the ground, giving him wrestling looks that we haven't seen him really, face before, or he's struggled with before he got to the UFC level. But this thing's a pick 'em. Rinat's a -115 favorite. Bryan Battle is a -105 dog. I kind of like Bryan Battle to be able to keep the range, use the front kicks, use that long leg pogo stick style defense to stay up on the feet and outpoint a guy. And on top of that, we have seen quite obviously in the last couple fights, some of these judges blatantly disrespecting control time in the octagon. I think we got to ride that, man. Like, until we see this wave shift to where everybody is okay with, splitting it 50-50 again, a couple, damage and control time. Right now it's heavily favored to damage. So if Rinat grinds Bryan Battle and rides his waist for 4 minutes in a round, but Battle hits him in the face with a front kick, Battle's going to win that round. Like that's just the trend we're seeing right now. So I'm going to pick Bryan Battle, and it's not a bad price tag if you're interested in that shot there.
Yeah, I'm a big Bryan Battle fan myself. I've bet on 2 of his UFC fights thus far, and obviously I've been able to cash those. Lock of the night play against Takashi Sato, didn't even have to sweat in that one, and then a big win, a hard fought victory in that fight that he got audited in against Trishan Gore. 1 unit at +145 was able to cash that as well.
Bad.
And I noticed that as well, Adam Fitzgerald.
My bad. Yeah, Christian. Sorry about that. Christian Dvorak is one of my players I keep an eye on for the Arizona Coyotes. So I mixed up the names there. Sorry, everybody, and thanks for the call out there, Adam. That's my bad.
I love it. But no, you're right, man. Fakhretdinov, yes, he's one of those offs that everybody wants to keep their eye on, especially with him having a shiny 20-2 professional MMA record. But if you audit him and look at his level of competition on the regional scene, you're like, this guy's just beating up on, he's just a bully. He's 14-2 going up against a guy that's 1-1. 15-2 going up against a guy that's 3-3. Like, what is
manages the 1-1 guy?
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, that is a big red flag for me. And he showed off what he can do at his best against the perfect stylistic opponent, which he had last time around against Mihalaitis. But we know Battle has solid cardio. We know Battle has good enough defensive grappling. We saw him dealing with a heavy grappling approach from Andre Petrosky on The Ultimate Fighter. Now he's going up against I don't want to say a step down in competition or anything like that. Rinat is decent and he's good at what he does, but when he's dealing with legit resistance like he's going to deal with here against Battle, I think we see him struggle. I think we see him slow down. I might have a look at that Bryan Battle round 3 prop just for kicks, but I do think that we'll get the better work out of Battle here to get his hand raised, likely by decision. And the action is already rolling in on him, Clint. Like, it seems like the odds just opened up not too long ago. He's already at like -113, -115 on certain spots. So Bryan Battle likely going to be the favorite come fight time. But I think he has some value even at that number, at a negative number, because of the advantages he has in everything from the grappling, from the cardio to the sustained grappling, I should say, because he will be liver the longer that this fight goes. And I don't see Rinat really finishing this guy unless he just Hail Mary kills him with a KO early on in this fight. I see Battle getting stronger and stronger as this fight goes on, and I think we're going to get a great price tag on him, especially as this line starts to open up on more books. So we're on the same side here, man. Bryan Battle, hopefully he gets another one here for us.
Bryan Battle it is, and Justin reading my mind over here. Bryan Battle by decision. I'm with you. I like that round 3 or that decision. That's probably the way it takes place, but at this pick 'em price tag, it's straight up money line. That's the way to go. Buffo says meet the Fakhretdinovs. And Detroit versus everybody says I'll take the dog, but how can we trust a man who's a Detroit Lions fan? Get out of here. I mean, this is Vikings territory, baby. I know they just beat us, so I can't really talk shit about that. Rod Torque saying he'll take the Butchers money line. I don't mind that. I don't, whatever. All right, everybody. We are doing well. We are chugging right along. Thank you all for dropping by, and good to see Solar Warden popping in with the model coming in on Dvorak. Always love to see the model results here. Next fight we want to talk to you about is going to be Maheshate. The man has absolutely no last name. We only know him by Maheshate. And he's taking on Rafa Garcia. I'm very excited for this fight. So I've had a love-hate relationship with Rafa Garcia, Lock. You know, I was relatively high on this guy when he first came into the UFC, kind of cooled off a little bit and tried to bet against him at the wrong spot. Then we got back on track and we got a casher. Like, it's been up and down. It's been up and down with Rafa Garcia. We know what he does, right? He's going to come in and push a pace. He's going to use his wrestling. He's going to swing big bombs. Lots of volume, doesn't really have the knockout power, so he's going to keep a nice pace on you, but he will score, right? Like, he's not one of these only control time type of grapplers. He'll punch. He'll make sure the referees are noticing he's doing damage. He's on a 2-3 run here in the UFC, but it seems like he redlines in round 2 every fight. Now, he's able to keep pushing, right? Even if his mouth is hanging open and he's gassed out, he still shoots 4 takedowns in the 3rd round. So, like, I'm not sure if he's got a bad gas tank or if he just is bad visually speaking, because he does look like that in every fight. He still manages to win these decisions. He's never been knocked out. You got to love the durability there, averaging 3.87 takedowns per 15 with a 42% accuracy. That is a solid takedown accuracy, my friend. Maheshate, on the other hand, is 9-1, and he's a big boy at 155. He is a 6 foot, 155 pounder. He's got a great frame for the division. Light on his feet, bouncing side to side type of movement. He loves his flying knees, lots of kicks from the outside. He'll throw that spinning heel kick. Kind of reminds me of like a Bahamondes type, right? Like a guy that'll just kick you to death from outside if you let him. He's got that sneaky body kick. He really does love working the body, which drains his opponents, drop their hands, and then he goes to the head. He sets people up really well, and he's got an absolute piston of a right hand. He nuked Garcia with a fadeaway right hand in his last fight. Now, Garcia, not the not the most durable guy in the world, but it's that one's hard to argue with. Like, when you face plant somebody like that, chinny or not, it's like, damn, all right, this kid's got some power. Maheshate will have a 1-inch reach advantage here coming into this fight, and he's the underdog. I don't like betting against established, proven UFC fighters, but I feel like Maheshate might actually be the goods. He might be a Shavkat Rakhmonov type of prospect that we just need to give the opportunity to blossom here. And I think he can have success striking against somebody like Rafa Garcia. Plus 100, the underdog Maheshate, minus 120, Rafa Garcia. Lock, anybody that tells me they want the grinder in this spot, I will not argue with you all that hard. But I kind of like the even money on the underdog here.
Yeah, this one was a tough one for me to call, and I feel like I want to dig into it a little bit more before I actually make a play on this. My thought is kind of what your initial one was, what the Garcia side, where you can just grind on you and just play a full game. The dude has solid durability, but Maheshate can go out there and just put out anybody's lights, it seems like. And the fact that he has that movement from the outside where he utilizes his kicks and his range, that's kind of the holdup here for the Garcia side. Because Garcia, for him to have success, the guy needs to get into the pocket and exchange with his big strikes. Because if he can't, that's when Maheshate will likely just snipe him from the outside. And even if he doesn't finish him, he seemed to have decent enough cardio even on the Contender Series. The one fight where I actually have a full 15 minutes of footage on him, looks good, but level of competition could be sketchy. I'm not saying that Achilles is a massive step down from Rafa Garcia by any means, but Garcia still has to go out there and prove a lot of things to us. He's able to grind out over Natan Levy. He's able to get those takedown late, but we know that Levy is one of those guys that suffers from a cardio issue, a gas tank issue at times. Jakar Close goes out there and just cleans him up and wins that fight relatively easily as well. I'm leaning Garcia just because of the paths to victory he has here, but I'm going to be kicking myself if he's not able to land the takedowns. And Maheshate is just out there just having target practice essentially for 15 minutes and just winning this fight just based off the output. So still a toss up in my head. Again, I want to dig a little bit deeper. For the sake of this podcast, I'll go with the prediction of Rafa Garcia. I do think that we'll see him get those takedowns and get those valuable clinch minutes up against the cage and grind this one out. But I'm a little bit skeptical about it. This Maheshate could be the goods for sure. And yeah, maybe Shavkat is a little bit of a reach at this moment in time. Yeah. Shout out to our guy DXJC in the live chat.
I'm just saying, I get the vibes.
Yes,
he's not Shavkat. Maybe he's not on that level. We'll find out. Yes. But I'm just saying, he gives me He gives me the same
Yeah.
vibes I got from Ignacio Bahamondes from Shavkat Rakhmonov, that tall, lanky frame that if he puts it all together, he can start, murking people in the octagon. We'll see. Give the kid some time. We'll see.
For me, it's more so like if I were to bet Rafa Garcia, it's more so to fade the hype that's currently on Maheshate's name because he went out there and had a fadeaway knockout against Steve Garcia. So I don't know if that would be enough for me to actually get to the betting window. I'll go with Rafa Garcia by decision. But yeah, just keep an eye on Maheshate. This kid could be something.
Absolutely. Joshua Frick saying, Deadlock Army. What's up, my boys? How you doing, my guy? Thank you for the shout out. Thank you for joining us. We got 94 live viewers. Raw Torque, unfortunately, man, can't see the emoji that you're using. So you got to let us know, what exactly are you saying about Maheshate?
Maybe machete. Maybe you got some knives in there. I don't know.
Zaid, my guy. Appreciate you for tuning in. 96 live viewers, people. Hit the like button if you haven't already, and I swear I'll shut up about it. I won't. The algorithm needs likes. I'm going to keep saying it. All right. Next fight up, we have got Said Nurmagomedov taking on Saidyokub Kakhramonov, and that is a mouthful, ladies and gentlemen. You get on camera and try and say those two names back to back. I want to hear it. Send me audio files. All right. Said Nurmagomedov is a man who... I have called the lesser of the Nurmagomedovs in the past. I have been critical of Said Nurmagomedov and his style and the way he fights. He does have that Dagestani grind in the back pocket he can shift to, but he really doesn't go to it often. He's an Ankalaev type, right? He wants to strike. He wants to stay outside. He wants to use the kicks, control that pace and that range, and only if he has to take the thing to the ground. But we have seen him making some serious improvements in his last couple fights. It's one of those things where right when I called him, a little overhyped maybe because of the last name, he comes out and rattles off 2 finishes back-to-back of Mark Strickland and Cody Stamann. And then he gets an impressive win over Douglas De Silva de Andrade, one of those guys that just never goes away. Like, that's an impressive win. Anytime anybody beats Douglas Silva, I have to take notice. The Cody Stamann guillotine, gorgeous. Kind of feels like an oversight mistake by Cody Stamann, but it is what it is. Mark Striegel, not a good gas tank, not a good chin. I'm not shocked by that outcome whatsoever, but you can't argue with what he's done. You put opponents in front of them, and not only is he just beating them, he's handling them. His opponent, though, Saidyokub, 10-2, absolutely mauled Trevor Lawrence. Now, that stands out to me because Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be the wrestling pressure and pace guy coming off the Contender Series. Everybody marveled. Dana White talked up just how good this kid is on the ground. And I got to tell you guys, Dana White doesn't go hard in the paint on fighters like that often, right? Like when he actually talks about how phenomenal somebody is coming into the UFC, it's somebody they think they can market. It's somebody they think that they can get behind. And he loved Ronnie Lawrence. So because he went so hard on Ronnie Lawrence, they set that fight up. Saidyokub comes in short notice, mind you, and outpaces, outpressures, wrecks the wrestler on the ground. And then came out and was like, I'm sorry, guys. If I had a full camp, I'd have finished him. It's like, bro, like, I couldn't be more impressed with what he just did. So I am absolutely drinking the Kool-Aid. Saidyokub is another guy that I had circled even before the Ronnie Lawrence fight that I was interested in backing as he got going here in the UFC. I think this kid is special. I really do. He averages 6.07 takedowns per 15 minutes at a 52% accuracy. I know Saidyokub has a 70% takedown defense, but with what Saidyokub just did against Ronnie Lawrence, I think this guy might actually test the takedown defense chops of Said Nurmagomedov. And on top of that, Saidyokub's gas tank, we know, even on short notice, is able to keep one of the highest paces we've ever seen for 15 straight minutes. I like the dog here, man. I think Saidyokub is going to come in here and steal all the hype coming off of Said Nurmagomedov. I think this kid's going to grind him out. Now, he probably doesn't get a finish, but I do think Saidyokub gets his hand raised on Saturday. Locke, am I nuts?
You are not nuts, my friend. I felt like I was one of those few guys that was on the Kakhramonov train last time around against Ronnie Lawrence. I was getting some shit for it all week. I'm like, you guys just wait, man. Like, you watch this guy's tape. Everything that we've heard from him or about him is that he's a very high-level wrestler, high-level grappler, and we saw it on full display. I love his relentlessness as well. The guy just keeps coming forward, keeps going for takedowns, puts you through the ringer, and just keeps coming out on top. Like, he's so good at just consistently staying on you. He landed 10 of 16 takedown attempts on Ronnie Lawrence, over 12 minutes of control time in a 15-minute fight. Ronnie Lawrence had almost no shot in that fight, it seemed like. I cashed 2 units at plus 115 on Saidyokub last time around, and I think I'm going to go another unit and a half deep here on him against Said Nurmagomedov. Now, Said, I tried to fade him as well in the past, right? I bet 2 of his fights. I've come out 0-2. One time I bet him, a bet against him with Cody Stamen. I thought Cody would be able to get the wrestling going. We didn't even get to find out if he would be able to get it going because it ended so quickly. And then I bet the under in this fight with Douglas Silva de Andrade. That didn't really work out either, as that was more so of a tepid-based fight. But I think we got the perfect guy here in Kakhramonov. Now, Kakhramonov, this guy on the regionals, actually, I think it was WSOF, if I'm not mistaken, goes the full 50 minutes against Umar Nurmagomedov and showcase very good things. Like, it reminded me of the fight with Arman Sarukian, who we'll be talking about in the Coleman event of this fight. But when Arman came up short against Islam Makhachev, his stock grew after that fight, just as Kakhramonov's stock, in my eyes, grew after he lost to Umar Nurmagomedov on the regional scene. I saw the promise from this kid, and he went out there and proved me right against Ronnie Lawrence. I think we'll see him do that again here against Said Nurmagomedov, continuously pushing the pressure, continuously pushing the pace, landing some takedowns. You know, there have been guys that have a takedown success against a guy like Nurmagomedov. One judge even scored round 3 of the Douglas Silva de Andrade fight against Nurmagomedov because De Silva got the takedown, got 2.5 minutes of control time. Maybe we get more takedowns and more control time from Kakhramonov this time around, and he's able to secure all 3 judges' scorecards rather than just the one. So unless Nurmagomedov knocks him out with one of his flashy moves that he likes to do in the striking realm, I think that we'll see Saidyokub put this guy through the ringer, win this fight via decision, and cash that underdog ticket. So, yeah, I'll definitely be on that side with you this weekend as well, my friend.
All right. Love to hear it, man. Love to hear it. Because I haven't locked any bets in just yet. I had kind of a scrambledy Sunday, big family get together. Some family from Minnesota came in and we watched the Vikings game all together and stuff. So I didn't have all the time I usually do to flex all my MMA stuff. So haven't locked any bets in or anything like that just yet. But I think I want to get on Saidyokub now at plus 100. And if it moves against us, maybe add a little bit more on if it gets wider, but I don't want to miss the opportunity to hit that even money. I don't want it moving to minus 115 on me and missing out on that good number. Got to shout out our guy Zaid sending in the $5 dono. Thank you very much, my friend, helping us keep the lights on here at Pub Sports Radio. And don't forget, you guys, we now offer memberships here on Pub Sports Radios. You can support the show. You can support the channel, become a member. That'd be super helpful to us. We'd all very much appreciate it. And we are prepared. Apparently, there's a video that's going to be coming out very soon that's going to detail some of the things we're going to do for our members only. So there will be some benefits and being a part of the group here. So we'd appreciate any help you guys can give us in that area. Next fight up, we are talking Julian Marquez, the Cuban Missile Crisis, taking on Deron, Winn. And quite frankly, Locke, the only thing that came into my brain when I first started looking into this fight was, how the hell is Deron Winn getting another fight? Like, this has got to be because he's DC's boy. That's the only way you can possibly convince yourself that Deron Winn deserves another fight here in the UFC. This guy has been nothing but disappointing. Do you remember the hype, Locke?
Oh,
when they first were like, Deron Winn considering the transition to MMA? Like, people lost their minds. This guy was supposed to be a big fucking deal. And he's been nothing but disappointing since he made it here to the UFC. 7-3. He got that decision win over Antonio Arroyo. I did cash that ticket. Actually betting on him against Antonio Arroyo, one of those ones where it was scary, it was greasy. I got the over on that one, so felt good about it. And because I'm a Phil Hawes hater, I did go back to the well thinking maybe he can get that wrestling going again, but he got nuked, Locke. One of the worst bets I think I've made in my life trying to bet him against Phil Hawes, because that size discrepancy was just, frankly, it was uncalled for. This guy looks like you hit DC with a shrink ray. Like, that's all it is. He doesn't have a whole lot of power. He keeps a high pace. He swings wildly with his hands, but because of that, He is counterable. And if you can't get the wrestling going with him, he's not going to win the fight. Like, he really relies on getting on top of people to be able to do the damn thing. But much like DC, it seems like he's fallen in love with his hands. He just doesn't wrestle the way that he used to. And it's like, buddy, you're like an Olympic level wrestler. You should be taking these guys down. And oh my God, look at the Ohio fight. It worked. Like, so I don't know, man. I don't think he is long for the UFC here. Julian Marquez is a big dude at this weight class. And I know he's coming off a loss against Gregory Rodriguez, where he decided to go fire for fire with the biggest hitter in the division right now. But when he doesn't do that, he tends to overwhelm people with his size and his power, and he finishes people. He's got nasty finishing upside. This guy head kicked and knocked out Phil Hawes on the Contender Series. People tend to forget. So, you've got an opponent comparison there to go to if you want to run the tape on it. He choked out Darren Stewart. He choked out Maki Pitolo. He choked out Sam Alvey. And this guy carries his power late, Locke. That's kind of the biggest thing for me with Julian Marquez, is he is dangerous all the way up until the final bell. Even if he's tired, even if he's beat up, even if he's exhausted, he will find a way to get his opponent out of there and have a come from behind victory. I don't see how Deron Winn wins this. Because if he does try to wrestle Julian Marquez, the guy is slick enough on the ground, he's big enough, he's strong enough to look for a get up. He'll be able to reverse the position. He'll find a front choke to threaten with. And then on the feet, again, maybe Deron Winn has more volume, but Julian Marquez is going to be the guy that's got the stinging power. It's just Julian Marquez all day for me. I mean, maybe Julian Marquez round 3 finish. Maybe Julian Marquez by sub. I like Julian Marquez in this fight. It's a low-level fight. It's a bum fight. But God forbid, I can't find a way to back Deron Winn here in this spot. What about you?
Just for anybody curious, Marquez round 3 currently sitting at plus 550. And that's probably like
Marquez round 3 is plus 550.
That's what
Are you serious?
Bet Online just dropped their props, but plus 550 for round 3. That might be the shortest odds I've ever seen on a round 3 prop, if I'm being honest there, Clint. But man,
they know.
Yeah, they know. The body language of Deron Winn is just so miserable at times, right? Especially in that Phil Hawes fight, late in the Antonio Hoyo fight. But the thing that scares me the most on the Julian Marquez side is 3 fights ago, this guy got taken down 5 times and controlled for over 9 minutes against Maki Pitolo, who is, not the level of wrestler that Deron Winn is. So if Winn goes out there and he's able to land these takedowns, sure, Marquez might be live off of his back, but is he going to continuously be able to throw those submissions up? He got it against Maki Pitolo, sure, but we're getting a better wrestler here in Deron Winn. But it's just so hard to back a guy that looks at times that he has 7 minutes of cardio. And when you have a comeback kid like Julian Marquez, then okay, it makes sense to me. But I can't confidently go into this bet biting that minus 165, minus 170 for Marquez for a fighter that is likely going to be losing the early going on in this fight to come back and win it later. So maybe jumping in on the live line would probably be a best way to go with Julian Marquez, or betting him inside the distance pre-fight might be the best way to do it as well, because, Julian Marquez, 12 fights he's had in his professional MMA career, only 2 of those fights have seen the scorecards. All of his wins coming via finish as well. The guy goes out there and he tries to put you away. Inside the distance, Marquez would be the best bet for me, personally speaking. But something about the money line on Deron Winn, plus 150, he has the grinding style to, shut down a guy like Julian Marquez. But I can't get to the betting window with a guy like Deron Winn. I just cannot do it. But nor can I confidently back a guy at minus 170 who really only has the last half of this fight to try to win this fight. It's similar to the Marlon Vera thing, right? The guy loses early on and then he gets it going later on. But luckily in 5-round fights, it probably works out more for him than it will for Julian Marquez in a 3-round fight. So I don't know. This fight is scary to me. For me, it's probably the most volatile fight on the card. From a predictions perspective, I think the Deron Winn side, money line, probably makes the most sense. Deron Winn by decision. But good God, is he a hard fighter to bet on and be confident about it, getting away with your money. But I don't want to get tied to the favorite money on Marquez here. Maybe bet him live. That's about it.
Okay, they're saying call the orderlies if you're putting your hard-earned money on this spot. Call the orderlies in.
There you go.
I'm getting taken away for that one. Our guy Raw Torque says puff puff pass, and pink for says D-Chins don't pass. That's my kind of guy right there. I love it. No, that's, man, and you know what? Maybe you're onto something, Locke, because I'm looking over at Superbook Sports, and already we've got Deron Winn plus 135, Julian Marquez minus 155. So somebody has stepped in and put a bet down on Deron Winn. I'm going to have to check with my guy Andrew and see if that's sharp and respected action or if they're just moving with the market. But Julian Marquez minus 155 is much where I'd rather play it. I don't want to lay minus 185 on Julian Marquez. He's not really a high-level trustworthy fighter. But if you're giving me around the minus 140, minus 150 range, that's where I would be interested in taking Julian Marquez. So we'll see where this line goes. I do think there are better fights on this card. Like, I'd much more feel comfortable betting Saidyokub, Kakhramonov over Julian Marquez at chalk. So there's better spots. Maybe we just don't need to be involved here in this fight, but I will pick Julian Marquez to put the nail in the coffin of Deron Winn and kind of end his UFC run. I just don't see it. I think the physical tools are something that he is not going to be able to overcome at this point, and that's all it comes down to for me.
Last thing I'll say about this matchup, Antonio Hoyo, 1 inch taller and 1 inch longer than Julian Marquez. And we saw Deron Winn get this guy down over and over again and secure that victory. It's possible. I know talent-wise and skill-wise, probably a different conversation in terms of Julian Marquez and Antonio Hoyo, but that skill gap is not super wide. Julian Marquez is not this phenomenal fighter by any means. He's a guy that gets away with his toughness, his ruggedness, and his physical capabilities. But if he's on his back the entire time, things could get iffy for my guy over there.
It's very true, but I will say though that the reason for that, and that's the one I cashed on Deron Winn, Lock. I was there in that spot. It's because Antonio Hoyo has no urgency off his back. He's a 7-foot tall kickboxer who has no interest in getting off of his back, and that's why it worked in that spot. We have seen Julian Marquez work up to his feet. We have seen him attack, front chokes and actually try to get on top of his opponents instead of just playing for arm bars off of his back. And that's the difference here, I think, between those two types of guys for me. Don't get me wrong. It could happen. Obviously, Deron Winn could still just sit on his chest for 15 minutes and grind out a win. But it's a slight difference in opponent where I think I'd trust Julian Marquez to be in that fight more than somebody like Antonio Hoyo was.
I like it.
Yep. All right, everybody. We are moving right along here as I try to tip out my time codes. We got Jake Matthews returning to the cage, taking on none other than the Jedi Matt Semelsberger. And talk about a Jekyll and Hyde situation for me here, Locke. I could not have read my guy, Jake Matthews, any better. I have had very few shining bright spots here in the year of our Lord 2022. I called the Jake Matthews round 2 knockout. I played him under 2.5. I played the money line at dog odds. I played the knockout. I played the round 2 knockout. Like, that's when everything was all good for your boy that night. I was having myself a time when Jake Matthews came through as planned in that spot. So feeling really good about my read on Jake Matthews. At Semelsberger, on the other hand, this man has cost me both ways, and I hate it. So I took the stab on AJ Fletcher as an underdog in a close, grinding 15-minute affair, and I thought AJ may have done enough to get the win. Lost the decision there. And then I said, you know what? I was impressed by Matt Semelsberger and what he was able to bring to the table. I'm going to go ahead and back him against Alex Morono. Woof. That was not the move, my man. He got absolutely schooled by Alex Morono, and I really wondered about his process in that fight. Like, I know Alex Morono causes chaos. I know he pushes a high pace. He gets you uncomfortable. And that's when he does his best work, is when he's able to outvolume people and stuff. But Matt had such a grappling advantage. And in the third round, it showed that he could absolutely just be the bigger, stronger man and put smaller Morono down and sit on top of him. And he refused to go to that game plan until it was too late in the fight, until he absolutely needed a finish to come back and win. Whereas if he had mixed in the grappling, the takedowns earlier in the evening, he probably coasted to a victory in that fight instead of having his face punched off. And deep in that third round fight, watching the tape was brutal in this one, Locke, because he almost starches Morono with a knee in the third round at the very beginning of it. Almost has the man dead. Pins him up against the fence right in front of his corner. And his coaches are going, Matt, we've got a shot. Matt, we can win this. You can't let him recover. You got to go. You got to hit him. Elbows in the clinch. Disengage. Throw another knee. And it was like a seriously painful 20-second clip of them continuing to beg him to do anything. And he just sat there. He just, and it's one of those spots where it's not, Morono was not holding the clinch. Matt was. Morono was damn near out on his feet, and Matt was just hugging him. That it's like, that was one of the most egregious fight IQ moments, and we've seen a lot of them. That was one of the worst ones for this year. That if he had just backed off and landed a couple of shots, he could have gotten a third round comeback TKO victory. And just, I don't know if he was just out of it. I don't know if he was just exhausted. At any rate, extremely concerning for him not to listen to his corner in that situation. I like Matt's power. He's big for the weight class. He's a size bully, but I really feel like he's still very raw when it comes to his overall MMA game. He's got a 2-inch reach advantage over Jake Matthews. He's got 63% takedown defense. I like Jake Matthews everywhere here. He's extremely well-rounded. He's a decent wrestler. He's got good jiu-jitsu. He's fought only killers in the UFC so far. And I don't want to overcorrect on this spot because one guy looked good recently, one guy looked bad recently, but you compare their resumes and it's not even close. I think Jake Matthews is a much slicker boxer. So if they go to war on the feet, I expect Matthews to have an edge similar to how Morono did. But this price tag is a little concerning. Minus 255 on Jake Matthews, plus 215 on Matt Semelsberger. It's too wide for me. I'm going to pick Jake Matthews to go ahead and get the win, but I actually think this will probably end up being a pretty competitive fight. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if Matt comes out and tries to wrestle this time because of what happened to him in his last fight. What are your thoughts on this one? Shout out Uncle Wheezy in the chat. What's up, buddy?
I agree with you that the line is just wide here. Like it just goes to show how fickle MMA betting fans are, right? Like it's just, what have you done for me lately? Oh, you're the underdog going into Andre Fialho fight. Stupidest line of the year. Shout out to you for catching that as well. I think that's been the second time where I've had a plus money lock than I play in my entire, professional betting career, essentially. And I felt so damn good about that spot. I laid the hammer down on that plus money on Jake Matthews. I'll always be proud of that. But now there's a market overcorrection, essentially making him a minus 255 favorite here because of what he did against Andre Fialho. On the flip side with Matt Semelsberger, I think this past weekend was a good indication of how tough his last fight actually was, right? I was on the Alex Morono train in that Semelsberger fight, but Morono doesn't normally get the respect from the public. I mean, people think that he's just this brawler that goes out there and it's eventually going to catch up to him, or Chaos Williams type of knockout is going to happen again where he just ends up getting starched. And obviously it happened this past weekend against Santiago Ponzinibbio, but for 2.5 rounds, I'm over here with the 2-unit minus 180 ticket on Santiago, ready to rip it up. And with 1 second left on the under 2.5 as well, Ponzinibbio comes through. But this fight should further cement, or that fight should further cement that loss for Semelsberger last time around wasn't as bad as people were making it out to be before this Morono and Ponzinibbio fight. Semelsberger, a lot of his success coming from his size, his physical attributes, something that he's been leaning on a lot. And he has some grit. He has some, solid durability. He has that heart, essentially, as we've seen in the AJ Fletcher fight, gets controlled for about 4 to 4.5 minutes in that first round, comes out hot in the second and third rounds to get his hand raised there. Like you mentioned, almost finished Morono in that third round, shows a little bit of immaturity in regards to his fight IQ, at least. That's why, to me, this fight with Jake Matthews should be a little bit closer, but it's not to the point where I think that he actually goes out there and gets the win over Jake. Jake is not the fighter that everybody expected him to be, because I remember a ton of potential on this kid early on in his UFC career, but he's kind of carved out a spot where he's going to be that top 15 to 10 guy in this division to kind of keep out, not so much a gatekeeper essentially, but like a guy that's going to go out there and have good performances against Andre Fialhos and the Semelsbergers of the world. But this is not going to be a blow up by any means. Like, this is going to be somewhat competitive. I could see Matthews going back to his roots, which was grappling, right? Like, he would go out there and get these guys to the ground and grind them out from that top position with this heavy power and heavy top control that he brings to the table. But we've seen him rounding out the rest of his game, like we did in the Fialho fight, with that boxing, with that striking, and that could end up being the difference maker in this matchup. I'm not getting too tied up with Matthews here. He should win, but in the long term, I think it's one of those spots where you're betting the minus 255 where it ends up losing, every couple times, and you don't end up profiting on the spot on a long-term basis. So Matthews is the pick. I might throw him in a degenerate lottery parlay, but that's really about it. I don't want any more action on it. Semelsberger could surprise us. He's in that stage of his career where he could be making improvements, and that might be enough to make this a close split decision win for the Semelsberger side. I want nothing to do with it. Pick is Matthews by decision. I'll look at the over. That's kind of where I have my eye on, as I think that we'll see a lot of grappling in this matchup, which will eat away at clock and likely drag this fight to the judges' scorecards.
And I do want to go ahead and point out that the couple of losses and the big stumbles in Jake Matthews' career, for as good as he seems to be on the ground, are by sub. The guy's had a problem. When he gets physically controlled by bigger, stronger grapplers, he has struggled. Now, I think a lot of those fights have been, before he made the move up to 170, he was kind of out-muscled and out-physicaled by guys down at 155. So I just want to kind of run through the list here for you. Now, Sean Brady, obviously, we're not dealing with that kind of a monster here at 170, but it was like Anthony Rocco Martin, who's not with the UFC anymore. We got him by round 3 sub. He did get ground and pounded out by Kevin Lee back in the day. He lost by round 1 guillotine to James Vick. Like, these are the types of guys that gave him problems. And we even saw recently, now again, like I said, I know it's a monster like Brady, but somebody who's big and strong and powerful can take him down and get the better of him. So if Jake falls victim to that again, if Matt Semelsberger puts on a wrestling singlet, I can see him coming out and playing spoiler. I can see a Matt Semelsberger by decision type of fight if he's able to put Jake Matthews on his back and wants nothing to do with the striking, or if he just knocks him down, if he clubs him with one of those big shots, because we do have to respect the power of Matt Semelsberger. Even if Jake is a slicker striker, Matt probably punches a little bit harder. I could see this fight being violent one way or the other. I could see Matt grinding out a decision win. I could see Jake sticking and moving and working his way to a 5th. I can see every single result under the sun for this fight lock. So right now, I don't feel comfortable betting it. I'm going to look into it a little bit more, but because I think the line's wide, it's one of those spots where I got to hedge my bets, right? Like, I'm going to pick Jake Matthews to win, but I think the bet is probably Matt Semelsberger. Like, I don't like it right now. So I'm going to keep working on this one. I'm going to run a little bit more of that tape, a little bit of that older tape, because right now we're all very, very influenced with the recent stuff that we've seen from both these guys. And I don't want that to really skew my opinion. So more research is needed. Keep an eye out if I put anything on this later on, of course, on social media, everybody. Colby asking if there's any Monday night degenerate football action. Of course, Colby. Of course there is. I'm on the Cardinals +3. I do like Ramondre Stevenson's over 34.5 receiving props. I also like Kyler Murray's over 30 rushing prop. That's where I'm at. I did do one of the little same game parlays trying to cash in. Hopefully I go 3 for 3 in one night and hit a score for a Monday degenerate bet. That'll be fun. I got a nice little boost over on DK that had, I'm not allowed to say that. Superbook Sports. Go bet on Superbook Sports, everybody. Next fight. Didn't happen. Cheyenne Vlismaa taking on Cory McKenna. The return of Cheyenne Vlismaa. I mean, it's only right considering her hubby, her man, just competed and got a big win in front of everybody. You'd expect her to come back around after that point. Cheyenne is 7-2. Cory McKenna is a matching 7-2. And this is such a weird fight to me, Locke. This one's so weird because Cheyenne, man, she looked good at first. She came off the Contender Series. She got that head kick knockout. Like, she really looked impressive. And she has really looked like she's kind of working hard, rounding out her game over there at Extreme Couture. Chris, my guy, Chris the Action Man Curtis, photobombing her and the ladies. If you go watch on social media, you love to see it. Good work on you, Chris. She's got some killer instinct on her, man, but she's also more of a decisionator. She's working on her technical striking, and she looks good. She's got a good frame for the division. She's tall. She's long. She plays the outside. She has good feints. She's got a really stinging jab, and she strikes everything with combos. She likes to end with a big body kick. She scores well, and you got to wonder if she's become an honorary Georgian because she's, linked up with Mr. Dolidze in this spot here. So far, 73% takedown defense. She will have a 5-inch reach advantage, and she's taking on another maybe prospect in Cory McKenna, the one they call Miss Poppins. She is not sure what to make of her, frankly. I mean, she grinds out Kay Hansen. She grinds out Vanessa Demopoulos. Those are okay wins, but neither of them are with the organization at this point anymore. And you've got a split loss to Elise Reed, which your boy called. Nice, big, fun upset ticket to cash. And she Von Flews Miranda Granger. So far, she's been dominating lower-level competition in her UFC run with that wrestling, that power grappling that she has inherited from Sarah McMahon. And it's working. Decent boxing, good forward pressure, good mauling wrestling. I think Cory McKenna is one of these prospects that she's just so young. She's going to turn that corner. And I think she's going to be a problem once she does. We talk about man strength, right? We talked all last week about the 18-year-old kid that was making his UFC debut. You got to wait for him to fill out that. Same thing with the ladies. I mean, obviously not to the same extent. We're not talking about a boy to man muscle transition for the women, but similar. She needs a little bit of time to grow. She needs a little bit of time to fill out. I do think Cory McKenna can cause some problems here with the wrestling, especially the way with Cheyenne throws those kicks. I mean, God, I swear, if Cheyenne gets on top of her and just looks at the camera and goes, "Coach, you want me to submit him?" Like, that would be the best. That'd be the best reference of all time. If she pulls a "you want me to submit her," that would be fantastic. I think Cory McKenna could potentially be live in this fight, Lock. I'll be honest. I think this one's going to be ugly. I think it's going to be dirty. I think we're not going to know who won. The judges are going to have a rough time on their hands for this one because it's going to be competitive with both ladies doing good work. Buys is a -180 favorite. McKenna is a +160 underdog. Tempted dog or pass. Maybe look for an over. I kind of think Cory McKenna by decision is not a half bad look in this spot.
I'm on the opposite side here, man. I kind of think that the line is it could be wider. I see my guy Aiden Smo in the chat kind of saying the same thing here. I've been a little bit higher on Cheyenne more than most people have. Obviously, I believe she was my lock of the night play against Gloria DePaulo. She was able to pull off that victory. We didn't really get to see that fight play out. If everybody remembers, that was where there was a weird scramble and Cheyenne kicks her as DePaulo's getting up and she gets the knockout there. Picks up a big win over Mallory Martin last time around where she showed off her striking chops, which is definitely an improving part of her game. She has a decent wrestling game as well. She's a damn good grappler as well, in my opinion. Cory McKenna, I've never really been super impressed with her. Like on the regional scene, like you said, she's just out grappling most of these women because she's just stronger than them at the time. Maybe they don't even deserve to be in the cage with her at that point in their careers. But she can work as much as she wants at Team Alpha Male, but I think that at a certain point, your physical capabilities are not going to be able to fuel the skill set that Team Alpha Male is trying to employ in her, or at least put into her. We saw it in the Elise Reed fight where she just didn't grapple enough, and even if she did, and when she did, Elise Reed had the answer for her, and she was able to keep that fight standing. She was able to come through as a big underdog, like you said. You ended up betting on her that night, and I thought a lot of people were kind of misled, think that McKenna was going to easily get that fight to the ground over and over again. She obviously turns it around and gets that Von Flue choke against Miranda Granger to get her a hand raise and get back on the winning track. But I think she's going to struggle to do that here against Cheyenne, who I think Cheyenne will have the striking advantage here. And if this does get tangled up in the grappling realm, I think that Vlismaa has all the chops to be competitive and even just end up on top in those positions. I think that she'll be the better wrestler. Jiu-jitsu wise, maybe it's a little bit more of a toss-up, but I think we'll see Cheyenne, should this get into the grappling realm, be the one that ends up on top more often than not and it grinds this one out. And most likely, I think she's going to want to keep this in the striking. I think she'll have the speed advantage. She should obviously have the length and height advantage in this. And we saw it play out pretty well against Mallory Martin, who wanted to actively grapple in that fight. She went 0-5 on takedowns in that fight and didn't have much grappling success at all. But we saw Vlismaa put on the pressure, right? Put on the power. She, 134 to 80 significant strikes against Mallory Martin. I think that we see something similar here where McKenna is going to try to drag this fight to the ground unsuccessfully, allowing Vlismaa to get ahead on the punches, on the combinations, on the striking, get her hand raised. I need to do a tad bit more digging to make sure I'm dotting my I's and crossing my T's, but I'm feeling almost like lock of the night confident on the Vlismaa side, if I'm being honest. I might make her the lock of the night, but I gotta just do a little bit more due diligence before I go out and bring out the hammer on a spot like this.
Well, you and I are on opposite sides on this one. I like it for the sake of the podcast, and I have the same thoughts that you do. I want to do a little bit more research on this one before I decide whether or not I want to take that dog shot. But I do think that McKenna is just going to come out here and surprised some people, because her last fight, she let everybody down and surprised with, how she wasn't able to stick to the game plan or wasn't able to come through as a big favorite. And you see that burn a whole lot of people. And I think this is a bit of an overcorrection. I've said it before, man. I think that the recency bias in women's MMA is by far the biggest bastion of where we see that be a problem, because with women, the lines are a lot tighter than people, I think, give them credit for. They expect big, big things out of some of these women's MMA fighters, and they're just not quite there yet. And then when they get let down, or when bettors get let down, it swings massively the other way. That they're just like, oh, you're garbage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, she went from being a minus 300 favorite to being a plus 180 underdog. I said, that's too much. Like, that's too much. The truth is somewhere in the middle. So yeah, I'm going to look into it further, as will you. I hope we don't end up head to head on a bet. But it's fun, definitely, for the banter that we're going to be on the opposite side here.
Yeah, no, I think that this might be the more heavily debated fights throughout fight week, I think, from a lot of people. But I do think that Vlismaa comes through and continues the Delidze household streak that they're currently on.
Upholds the honor of the Delidze name.
Exactly.
All right, moving right along. Cody Brundage taking on Michal Oleksiejczuk. And I just want to let everybody know, me and Cody are all good. We patched it up. We're good. He follows me again.
What did I miss, Clint? Why do you keep getting wrapped up with these fighters, dog? What's going on? What did I miss now?
I don't know how. So shout out to my guy Lou, the boys over at the MMA Engine. They, do stuff here on Pub Sports Radio. Also, Brady, DFS by the numbers, Uncle Wheezy. You get Monk. You got Lou, and Lou is like the biggest Factory X guy on the planet. Him and Cody go back and forth in the DMs like constantly. They're always talking, and they got a good relationship. Well, man, back when I had the little flip-floppy situation with the Factory X boys, that was the one where let me go back and find it real quick, because I'm not going to remember the name correctly. Dustin Jacoby was facing Da-Un Jung, and I picked Dustin Jacoby.
Debated one. Yeah,
I was solid on Dustin Jacoby, and then I kind of thought myself into a hole somehow, and ended up flipping onto Da-Un Jung. And with the tweets that I had put out initially, Dustin and Cody are both very active on Twitter, and apparently they found my tweets and they're like, cool, this gambler likes us, click follow. You know what I mean? Like, that kind of thing happened. And then as soon as I posted that I was picking the other way, they both unfollowed me like immediately. And I had heard that Cody wasn't happy about some of the things I had said about him because of the Brundage fight where I bet against him. Like, I went against both of them in a very short span of time, and they were not happy about it after having just clicked the follow button, which I can't blame them for. But Cody followed me again, and I DM'd him, and I was like, hey man, like, I do a podcast. We do betting. Like, I have to be honest with my thoughts, and I'm sorry that I picked against you. I'm a fan. I like what you do. It's not personal. And he was like, nah, man, I was just being a little bitch. He was like, I was just upset. Like, it was leading up to fight week, and he saw me pick against him. Like, I was like, no, I get that. You don't need to see people picking against you the week leading up to your fight. So, he gets it. No harm, no foul. We're good. I'm happy to hear that. But here we go. They've got a same opponent here. Michal Oleksiejczuk was just recently beaten by Dustin Jacoby and sent him down the ladder. Now Cody Brundage is getting an opportunity, crack at the same exact opponent. And I think that sets up for a fun situation, because they've got the game plan already. They know how to beat this guy already. They've prepared for this guy already. So good leg up for Factory X here in this spot leading into this fight. And if you look over at the odds, you've got Oleksiejczuk as a big favorite, man. Minus 265. Cody Brundage is plus 225 as the underdog here in this spot. Oleksiejczuk 17-5. Brundage is 8-2. And as much as I like Cody Brundage as a person, Locke, I'm a fan of his in general, I don't know what he is. Like, he was supposed to be like a wrestler when he came to the UFC. And then he's like starching people in the first round. So, he's training out of Factory X. So his Muay Thai obviously is getting better. He got out grappled by guys like, Will Knight and Nick Maximov. chokes out Dalcha in a weird fluky win in that fight, which, I mean, I don't want to call it fluky because, like, obviously he's got the skill to do exactly what he did. His submissions are off the chain. This guy knows what he's doing. He hits hard, apparently, though. I did not see the Tresean Gore knockout coming, but he didn't have good body language in that Gore fight. I've made the argument that Gore was, like, winning that fight up until the point that he lost it before, because it felt like he was uncomfortable on the feet in that situation, and that concerns me coming into this fight here with Oleksiejczuk, because this man does not hold back. He is aggressive. He's got fast hands. He has never belonged at 205. Like, I've been saying it forever that Oleksiejczuk is too small at 205 pounds. He just can't handle those big boys. He belongs here. He got right with a big win over Sam Alvey, which was just, oh man, like, that was so painful to watch my guy Sam Alvey go down that way. Oleksiejczuk's going to enjoy a 2-inch reach advantage here in the spot against Cody Brundage. And frankly, Locke, I don't know what the game plan is. Like, I would love to make an argument for Cody Brundage here in this spot, but he's not jumping guillotine on Oleksiejczuk. I don't know if he can kickbox with him for 15 minutes. Like, does he go back to the wrestling? If Cody Brundage goes back to what got him to the dance, and he puts his singlet on here for this fight, then I do think there is a chance that he's live here in this spot with Oleksiejczuk, because there's still questions for me about Oleksiejczuk's cardio, the gas. We've seen him kind of wilt under that pressure, but again, that's up at 205 against much bigger boys. I don't know if he has a cardio issue or if that was just because he was facing off against much larger opponents. Oleksiejczuk only has a 50% takedown defense rating, man. I do think that there's a chance Cody Brundage can spoil the show here in this spot, and I do think that Cody Brundage can probably style an Oleksiejczuk on the ground. But considering we have so little footage of Cody Brundage, 3 round 1 finishes for and against, and then 1 decision lost against Nick Maximov, which that L doesn't look good in hindsight, it's hard to really feel bold about this one. But I kind of like Cody Brundage by decision. I kind of like him to be able to go to the grappling in this fight and make it competitive. I'm not sure if he pulls off the outright upset is kind of my problem here, but Cody Brundage at plus 225 has my attention. What about you?
I wanted to have more dissension. Obviously, we had a little bit in the last fight, but I agree with you, man. Like, this line is weird to me. Like, I'm a big Oleksiejczuk fan as well. Like, I love his style, moves forward, throws a ton of heat. Like, it's very rare that he's in a boring fight because he's always pushing the pressure. Yeah. I loved him early on in his UFC career, and obviously paid for it against Hovind St. Preux, where he shit the bed as a minus 224 or minus 225 favorite. But then I managed to get the money back kind of by making Dustin Jacoby my lock of the night against him, because I knew his more versatile striking game was likely going to pay off for him, and it ended up happening. But had I known that Dustin Jacoby was going into that fight with a broken foot, I probably would not have been more as confident, because that's a lot of his game, right? I don't even think he threw 1 leg kick that entire fight. And I was expecting him to use that front kick and that knee to keep Michal at distance so that he can let his strikes go behind that. But he still managed to get the victory, even just using his hands. But Michal, man, this guy he's a ball of energy. He's very herky-jerky with his style, moves his head a lot, moves a lot in front of his opponents. That Shamil Gamzatov fight, I can't remember the last time I've seen a guy gas as quickly as Shamil, but it was all due to Michal putting that pace and pressure on him and staying in front of his face. I lied. The last time I do remember somebody this past weekend gassing quicker than him. Patrick Downey, minus 1,500 favorite on Bellator, squashes or fumbles the bag there against Kristen Eccles. Either way, getting back to on topic here. The wrestling is where Michal has shown some difficulty, and Brundage, we're led to believe, is a solid wrestling opponent, and he might not land the first couple takedowns, but it's going to be his determination to get the fight to the ground. Go back and watch the fight with Jimmy Crute. Jimmy Crute landed so many takedowns in that fight. I think it was 8 takedowns that he landed in 3.5 minutes. It was the last one that he needed to get Michal flat on his back, and he was able to slice through his guard like butter. There was no resistance once Michal had his back flat on the mat. The first couple of times he got taken down and he was on his hands and knees. He was able to quickly work back to his feet. But once you get him to settle on his back, that's where you're going to have tremendous success. And Cody Brundage, I have my question marks about him. In the Tresean Gore fight, misses on a bunch of takedowns, and you see his body language change. You see his demeanor change, but he manages to get the knockout because Tresean gets a little bit too lackadaisical there. Michal, as much as we want to praise him about his pressure and his forward movement and his consistency in terms of putting output out there, the guy can be hit. He gets hit a lot.
He's
and
reckless.
He relies on his durability a lot. And if Brundage does have that same power from that Trishan Gore fight, brings it here against Michal, he could knock him out off of his back foot as well, off of his heels, which is what he did to Trishan. So,
and Brundage is a big guy too. That's the thing. Like Michal is coming down, and they are both 6 feet tall. Like I remember when Cody Brundage sized up against Dalcha Lunkiambula, it was like, fuck, man. Like I talk about how I don't know how Dalcha makes the weight class. Yep. Brundage had just as much muscle and was like 3 inches taller. So he's a big man at 185.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. All this is just trying to say exactly what you said. Plus 225 on Brundage seems to be a damn good spot that I can live with him just getting starched right off the bat. But as long as he gives me some sort of wrestling effort, I'm completely okay with that. And you kind of touched on it, that Factory X already has the game plan to beat a guy like Michal. I think they have a safer fighter here in Brundage with the path to victory that would be the least, that would meet the least resistance. And that's with the takedowns. That's with the grappling. And if Brundage can get this to the ground, man, he's going to look like the minus 250 favorite, in my opinion. I think he could get that top position and get Michal Oleksiejczuk out of there. The other spot that I was looking at before even getting into this fight was the violence spot. And now that we have props, fight doesn't go to decision as you would expect, minus 260. Makes complete sense to me there. I'll be looking at the total though. If it's at under 1.5 and we're getting plus money there, might be worth a little bit of a sprinkle, as whoever wins this likely gets it done early. Also, there is the chance that Brundage could win this by decision. But if Michal's defensive grappling is still as bad as I think it is, I think Brundage, if he gets his takedown, he gets to full mount without much issue. And from there, either pummels his way to a ground and pound victory, or we see Michal give up his back, possibly get choked out there as well. So violence
is under 1.5 here, Locke. That exactly. Even at 1.5, it doesn't seem bad, because Michal, we have seen what this guy does when he doesn't get people out of there early. Like he has nothing left to give in the second round. So either he buzzsaws Cody Brundage, or he leaves himself extremely vulnerable for the opposite to happen. That's not a bad look. Maybe just the under 1.5 is the way to go.
Yeah, I'm taking the plus money on Brundage, though. I think that's a no-brainer spot. Again, a couple big underdogs that we're picking here. Obviously, I went with Dvorak earlier in the card, going with Brundage here as well. Get one of them to cash at least, and we're profiting. So, yeah, I'm hoping that Brundage gets it done here via wrestling, via ground pound, round one.
I don't mind it. And you know what? If anybody pays attention to my guy, Gianni the Greek, he was talking about how this has been an overall massive year for UFC favorites, where it's overwhelming, which is part of why, I've had such a shitty year as a dog hunter. The underdogs are just not winning this year right now in the UFC. And even on Saturday, we saw a massive slate of favorites roll through without any hiccup, except for my boy Chris Action Man Curtis. Like, it's been favorite city. Maybe the underdogs throw us a little treat here at the end of the year. It's like being at a roulette table. It keeps on landing on black. It's not guaranteed. It's always a 50-50 shot, but that red's going to hit eventually. Like, I think we might see some underdogs come through here on Saturday.
I like it. I hope you're right.
I hope so too. Shout out. What's up, Sarah? Thank you very much for hanging out in the chat this evening. Good luck to you, Zach. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in this evening. We got 128 of you viewing this bad boy live. UFC Vegas 66 with my guy, MMA lock of the night. I know him as Manpreet. Our next fight that we want to talk about. We're getting down to the nitty gritty here, Lock. We've got just 3 or 4 fights left to talk about. Drew Dober, the Chin King himself, taken on Bobby King Green. And I wouldn't have made that comparison if I had realized I was going to have to say chin again in just a couple of seconds. So that's just a rookie mistake on my part. I need to get my shit together. Drew Dober, man, I mean, what is there to say about this guy? He is underrated. Like, he's fantastic. The guy can do everything. Good cardio, good pace, good counter wrestling, big time power, technical striking, hard leg kicks. Like, what's there not to like about Drew Dober? And then Bobby Green, so much experience, 29, 13, and 1. This guy is massively, massively experienced. And he's with all due respect, he's the Angela Hill of 155. He fights extremely closely with every single person he steps in that cage with, Locke. And I'm talking, he will fight down to his level of competition if he's taking on somebody who's in the bottom 25. He will also fight up to his competition if he's fighting a top fiver and looking for a title shot. It doesn't matter. Bobby Green will compete. He will be in that fight. He will be close. And I love that about him. When he's a gigantic underdog, I've been known to go ahead and take my shot with Bobby King Green because he's constantly disrespected. This ain't it. When he's close to a pick'em, when he's a short underdog and I'm not getting juicy odds on him, that's not when I want Bobby Green. And, you know, he just went through that experience. I talk about how when these fighters discover, without a doubt, there's no question, you are no longer competing for a UFC title. When they finally understand that and they jump into the depths of being gatekeepers, it seems to kind of take a toll on them mentally. You know, these guys have been believing they're the best in the world. They believe they can take out the best in the world. They're always thinking they can compete, you know, and win a UFC belt. And he's coming off getting mauled by Islam Makhachev. There's no question. There's no doubt. He stands zero chance against the champion in this weight class. And now he's taken a step down against a guy like Drew Dober, who has been right there on the cusp of glory several times, a guy that has been competitive with some of these higher end challengers and fighters, and a guy who I think still has potentially some room to grow and some upside. Bobby Green is a finished product, Locke. He mixes in the takedowns well. He has high volume. He always puts a pace on people, but he's a Diaz bro. He gets in there and he starts making faces at you. He talks shit at you. He'll waste his time. He'll try to beat you at your own game. You know, if you're a wrestler, he will try to take you down. It just isn't smart. If we're betting on you, you have to have a straight up path to victory or a good game plan for us to be able to trust you with our hard-earned money. And right now, that's not Bobby Green. Again, if you're getting odds, if you're getting plus 225 on Bobby Green, fuck yeah, he's going to make it close. It's going to be a split decision. Roll the dice, flip that coin, go for it. Plus 125 is not my flavor for Bobby Green. So because he's taken on somebody like Drew Dober, I am going to have to go favor to pass here on this spot. Bobby Green is going to enjoy a 1-inch reach advantage, but I think he's going to be well outpaced on the power side of things. And in a small cage where he doesn't have as much room to maneuver and use that defensive striking, I think Drew Dober is going to find opportunities to hit him and hit him hard and hit him big and just do the more significant damage in this fight, whether it's a late finish, which I know Bobby Green's hard to put away. So probably, kind of a decision type of fight. I think this one goes deep. I think Drew Dober probably gets his hand raised in the end. What about you?
This one's a tough one for me to call because I have those question marks about Bobby Green and his mindset. You kind of touched on it in the fact that like when somebody faces the top of the division, comes up short, they lose that motivation. They lose that sense of wanting to go out there and continuously train. But the question is, with Bobby Green, like, has he already been in that point of his career where he has gone up against some of these higher level guys and saw, okay, maybe I'm not going to come out on the other end, or maybe I might not be able to fight for a title anymore. And I think his thinking in terms of taking the short notice shot on Islam Makhachev is he could just turn the division on his head. If he had gone out there and gotten a win, a Hail Mary KO, whatever it might have been, he injects himself into that top 5 discussion. So I think that's kind of the reasoning he had going into that fight, personally speaking. But also, with this fight with Drew Dober, yes, you are correct in the fact that he'll likely have the athleticism advantage, the explosiveness advantage. But we've seen Bobby Green go out there and just stand in front of guys and take their best shots and keep throwing his own shots. He's good with like stalking fighters and just kind of overwhelming them with their own combinations, with their own striking. And I think from there, yeah, exactly. As Mushroom saying that, like, I think that he could slowly chip away and break Drew Dober and likely win that fight just by putting strikes together, putting combinations together, and just getting up on Drew Dober there. So I lean Bobby Green here. I lean him via decision as well. I was looking at the fight goes to decision, currently sitting around -135, -150. I think this is one of those long drawn out fights that we see Bobby Green just inch ahead and get his hand raised via decision in this spot.
Okay. I mean, I do think it'll be tight. I do think it'll be close. Overs maybe the way to look here, but we're disagreeing on the side. Yep. We're going to go.
Can I shut down what's going on in the live chat right now? I might as well.
Hey, like, you know what? If you would like to, you have the floor, my guy. Go for it.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, if people want to come at me like that, they're more than welcome to. And I don't want to do it on a platform like this, but it's there. There are people being taken care of. I've kept everybody up to date as best as I can. I have paid out. There's, I believe, 2 people left from the original game that this happened with, and the Dog of the Night challenge, which is still being taken care of. I've gone nowhere. I have not hidden from anything. I've tried to keep communications with these people as much as possible, and they are completely up to date. So if you want to come at me like that, I will happily talk about it. I'll be as transparent about it as possible. I'm not going anywhere. This money is being dealt with. Clint even knows how the issues that I've had in terms of dealing with our endorsements and sponsorships. Absolutely. And we've even tried to change it on over to his, so he's the one that receives it now. So there you go.
I can vouch for the PayPal issues. We've had to, we used PayPal for payment with our prediction strike deal, and we've had to work a workaround so that it was going to me instead of going to Locke, because there were continued issues there. So, hey, you know what, Locke? I know you addressed it. Dolph, not sure if you're a troll or if you're like an actual person.
If they want that, I knew it was going to eventually come up again, especially when I'm on a platform like this. So I might as well fucking deal with it head on. That's it. Yeah. For me personally, it goes between me and the person or the people that are involved. Exactly. I don't need to air this out here, but since it's already there, since it's taking up some space in the live chat, I might as well quickly address it. So there are people that are still with outstanding balances, and I'm dealing with them myself.
Yep. And that's where, one of those things where I vouched for you publicly on Twitter when this whole thing came up. I'll vouch for you again right here and now. I am personally well aware of the issues that you were facing that created that hurdle. And the other thing is, I can attest that Locke is one of the most stand-up people you'll ever meet in this community. And like he said, he is not going anywhere. So it is getting taken care of. You can trust that that's the case. And frankly, like he said, he's dealing with the individuals that are still pending at the time individually. It doesn't need to be anybody else's business. Like, it's getting handled. It's getting taken care of. If they trust him, if they're dealing with him, if it's getting resolved, let him do his thing. All right. So next fight that we do want to get into is not one with the chat. We're talking about Alex Caceres and Julian Juicy J Erosa. I love me some Juicy J, Locke. This guy has turned into a fun addition to any fight night card. And frankly, I didn't think he was going to last long. I thought he was a flash in the pan. Like, I thought the chin issues on Juicy J, the way he is just constantly attacking, I thought it was going to catch up to him. After getting run through in his first UFC run and coming back and not making any adjustments, continuing his wild ways and getting starched by Sung Woo Choi, I was like, well, that's it. It was fun to see you, Juicy J. It was fun to have you back, but we'll send you back into the B leagues again. The man's put together a 3-fight win streak. He just won a decision over me and Hakeem Tawadu. Like, what is going on? I am impressed beyond measure that he has continued to work his game, that he's continuing to show improvements and new wrinkles, and he's beating guys that we all thought were out of his league. Alex Bruce Leroy is a similar story. I thought he was going to be washed. I thought he was going to be out of here, and he has rounded out his game. Suddenly he's this jiu-jitsu guy now. Like, the way he snuck that choke in on Sung Woo Choi, he's doing grappling tournaments and winning by submission over there. Like, he also is patching up the holes in his game that I thought were going to present an issue. Like, this is a great fight against 2 very intriguing fighters that have turned their careers around. Juicy J is 28-9. Alex Caceres is 19-3. Alex Caceres, I always think of how skinny and tall and long he is, and that's something that I think can be matched by Julian Erosa in this spot. So it's an advantage that he's used to having that's going to be a little bit, dampened here in this spot in this fight. I just got to favor the power. I got to favor the finishing ability. Caceres is slick. He knows exactly what he's doing out there. Good, solid defensively, makes it hard to hit him. 64% striking defense. He's hard to find in there. And Juicy J is more than willing to run into a big shot, take it, eat it, and then land his own. But he's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage in this spot. He's going to be 3 inches taller. I think that size difference can allow him to kind of bully Alex Caceres around in the cage. And then that finishing upside is going to be something that he's just able to eventually find Caceres in that spot. Whether it's on the ground, he's got slick jiu-jitsu that he can maybe match the improvements of Bruce Leroy, or if this is just a 15-minute striking match, Alex Caceres has a brick for a head. We saw the shots he took against Sung Woo Choi, managed to stick around and come back from that. But I still think that somebody like Juicy J, he's got a different level of power. He might be able to finish that kind of an opportunity if he gets Alex Caceres rocked. So I'm going to say Juicy J. I don't know that I want to necessarily bet him inside the distance. I would need to look at the numbers when that prop came out just because of how durable Caceres is. But I think he's got Caceres pipped pretty much everywhere when it comes to the skill set. He's a minus 170. Alex Caceres is a plus 150 underdog, and that feels a little short to me.
Yeah, dude, this fight is one of those like you're kind of wondering with both guys, like how they're still managing to remain somewhat relevant, still in the UFC, still getting some wins. Even Caceres getting to the point where he was able to get a fight with Sadiq Yusuff, who's on a little bit of a run of his own and has his own confidence and hype from some people. But Caceres, good striking, solid jiu-jitsu. I was very happy with the fact that I was able to get him plus 180 against Chase Hooper back in the day. I think people were just disrespecting him a little bit too much there, because Chase Hooper had the hype. He was undefeated at the time, and then Alex Caceres goes out there and spoils the party, takes the O, gets the unanimous decision victory. But
don't remind me.
Oh, I'm sorry if you're on that side. I apologize. But
I've been on the Hooper train, man.
Oh my God. And then his next three fights, like they're going up against Austin Springer, Kevin Kroom, not really UFC level guys, and he's going out there and getting the win. The Sungwoo Choi one, that was the impressive one. That was the one where everybody's like, okay, maybe Caceres still has something to say in this division, and he might be able to shake it up a little bit. But then obviously Sadiq Yusuff brings him right back down to earth. And then on the flip side with Julian Erosa, another guy that I didn't really expect to have that much success, at this high level. I'll never forgive Jamal Emmers. I'll never forgive Jamal Emmers for going out there and striking with this guy when he had a clear grappling advantage. And he gets knocked out on the Contender Series way back in 2018. That sprung 3 straight losses for Julian Erosa, manages to get it back together on the regional scene with that one win and gets back into the UFC and showcases that he still deserves to be here. The big win against Hakeem Dawodu was a big eye-opener for me that we got to start giving him even more respect. I remember a lot of people were going into that week like Hakeem's the lock of the night. I didn't make it. I mean, I didn't say that, but they thought that he would be the most reliable guy to go out there and continuously get his hand raised. But Julian Erosa had something for that, man. His herky-jerky style of striking will be difficult, even in my opinion, for a guy like Alex Caceres to get a beat on, and that likely might be his calling card to get his win in this matchup. But I just feel uneasy at minus 170 because we've seen Caceres go out there and spoil the party as well. If you're getting me closer to like minus 120, minus 130 on Julian Erosa, I'd be a little bit more invested or interested in investing in this spot. But I think that just the unknowns of both guys and their ceilings at this point in their career is enough for me to stay off it personally. I think the overs probably a good way to go. I believe you touched on it as well. I'm seeing that the fight goes to decision currently hanging around minus 160 on certain spots. Decent for these kinds of guys, these guys who are so herky-jerky that it's hard to ever land a clean enough shot to put him out. And even Caceres, the vast majority of his losses, when finished, are coming by submission. And I don't know if Julian Erosa is going to be crafty enough to find a club and sub position here against a guy like Alex Caceres, or even just a straight-up submission position. So the prediction, Julian Erosa, favorite bet, probably fight goes to decision. But this is a sit back and watch spot for me personally, Clint.
I'm going to go back to Old Faithful, man. I'm going to say Juicy J round 3 sub because like you were just talking about, Alex Caceres, most of his losses are by submission. The brick head is going to keep him alive in this fight, but Julian Erosa is one of these guys that he's just as dangerous on the mat as he is on the feet. And if he was able to club and sub someone like Charles Jourdain, I think he can do it against someone like Alex Caceres. And looking through Alex Caceres' record, man, like he doesn't knock out anybody. Like his only path to victory is by decision. I mean, we're going back a long, like if you couldn't knock out Kevin Kroom, I'm sorry. Like you're not knocking out anybody if you couldn't knock out Kevin Kroom. So I'm going to be with you on the Juicy J side. I do think he gets this thing done. And that round 3 sprinkle absolutely might be in order. Maybe just the sub prop sprinkle at some point. Cause I do like him to go ahead and get the win here. Maybe emphatically. We'll find out. I don't know. All right, everybody, here we go. Co-main event time. Albazi. No, not co-main event. We got one more. What am I talking about? We've got Amir Albazi taking on Alessandro Costa. Another short notice fill-in. And you know what, Locke? I got to tell you, I'll be honest with you guys. I haven't had a chance to review Costa's tape just yet. We saw this guy on the Contender Series. If memory serves, and I'm just going off memory here right now, I got to go back and do the legwork. Y'all know how I roll. I think he was a bit low volume in that fight, which is, this cardinal sin of Contender Series, right? Like, you can't be low volume and unimpressive on Contender Series. So if you're not going to do it then, what's he going to do when he gets on, to the big show? Is he going to change his game plan around and come out guns blazing to try and impress Uncle Dana because he didn't do it on the Contender Series? That's just going to get you killed. This is Amir Albazi 10 ways until Sunday. Like, Amir Albazi is one of these superstar stud prospects that we see in the UFC right now. And you couldn't make this money line wide enough. Minus 450 for Amir Albazi, plus 375 for Alessandro Costa. Maybe you've done some more research than me on this one here, Locke, so I'm very curious to hear your opinion. But I've gone to the bank with Amir Albazi a couple times in the past. Parlays, inside the distance, by submission. The man just gets the damn thing done. I'm looking at doing that again. Another inside the distance or a submission type of spot. Maybe parlay him the hell up. He seems like the big chalky piece that I'm a fan of this week. Am I wrong? What do you got for me on this one?
I still think there's a little bit of unknown with the potential of Costa, and that's kind of what's holding me up here in terms of drinking the juice on the Albazi side. I'm with you that I think that Albazi is a very talented prospect, a guy that likely has, a title shot in the next year, maybe 2 years, depending on, how far along his skill set is. Costa, like, the guy has decent strikes, but he doesn't really throw unless he's like extremely threatened. He has a decent leg kick. He seems that, for his best success, it's getting the guys to the ground, getting his jiu-jitsu going. And I think that that's kind of what has me shaken up here with the Amir Albazi side, where, like, I think Albazi maybe the slightly better striker, but not by a whole lot. Obviously the better wrestler, and usually wrestling is where, the wrestlers who dictates where the fight goes and the pace of the fight. And I do think he'll be looking to test his submission defense by looking to get this fight to the ground and grinding Alessandro Costa through the mat and eventually finding that finish. But, like, there is too much, for me personally speaking, of an unknown on the Costa side, where I don't really want to take the chalk here on Albazi. I'll be looking to target the inside the distance props, as you kind of laid out there. That's absolutely possible. But what if Costa is good enough that this does go the full 15 minutes? That his jiu-jitsu is good enough to deal with that crushing top pressure that you'll eventually get from the Albazi side. So there's more question marks for me in this matchup. I don't want to touch the Alessandro side. Like, I really believe that Albazi is the goods and the shit, but I need to see more legitimate data from the Costa side before I go out there and fade him with heavy chalk, even if it's Amir Albazi, who I'm very high on myself. So I lean Albazi, but in terms of just extracting some value out of this, I think it's more so rooted in the props, and I lean the inside the distance ever so slightly. The numbers got to be good enough for me to want to actually pull the trigger. Like, I need a solid plus line. Let me see if there's anything out here right now.
I mean, at minus 400, you're going to get inside the distance. You're going to get
minus 115,
something like that.
That's
Frank, are you kidding me? Kyler Murray went down on the first play of the game. Shit. And I've got the over rushing prop. That's just my luck. Just
does that mean he's out or what?
That's what I'm saying. On a personal level, first off, I hope he's okay. But if he's done, my bets are just all dead for the fucking night. So that sucks.
Damn.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's fun. That's good stuff. Well, we'll see what happens. But hey, you know what though, guys? This is where put the tinfoil cap on. Like, everybody gets all worked up about, like, the backup quarterbacks and stuff like that. Like, if they're giving you a sexy number on the Cardinals now because Kyler's not in the game, like, jump on. Oh yeah, no, it's bad. About football. Lock, it's bad. I found the clip. It's bad. He's not coming back. I'm losing all my bets tonight because they were tied to Kyler's rushing prop. Son of a bitch. That always happens.
God damn. That's the one shady, well, not shady, but, like, unfortunate thing about betting NFL props is these guys could go out with an injury on any given night. And that's not often that you see that happen in other team sports, right? Like, even hockey, a big contact sport like that as well. How often are guys injured as often as NFL guys are? Like, it doesn't happen as much.
Well, it happens quite a bit when they get hit in the face with a stick. They lose teeth and shit like that all the time, frankly. But like, these types of non-contact knee injuries and stuff like that, I mean, man, what a year has it been for that? Because we've seen that in MMA too a lot this year, right? Like, the shoulder for Brian Ortega comes to mind, the snapped legs. Like, man, it's a unfortunate part of every sport. You hate to see it. You hope the Hope the athletes are okay. But yeah, that's disappointing for me tonight.
They should have some sort of like NFL insurance type of betting thing, right? Like if your player gets injured within the first half or something like that, your bets end up being pushed. Like otherwise, you're always it's risky as hell with NFL.
Sports books, man, they're just gonna take your money.
I know.
Like, gotcha, bitch.
Yeah, exactly. You poor bastard.
Basically. All right. So we're both leaning Amir Albazi inside the distance here on this spot. There's not a whole lot else I've got to say on that one, Locke. It is our co-main event, this time for real. Arman Tsarukyan is taking on Damir Ismagulov, and this is a fight, my friends. Like, we talk about these, little free fight night type of shows, and you get no name value. You get a bunch of fun matchups, maybe some guys that don't belong in the UFC, like all that kind of stuff. And then you get to the tippy top of the card. You get the co-main event, you get the main event, and that's where you get the star power. This is a legitimate freaking fight, Locke. Like, Arman Tsarukyan just had a massive winning streak snapped in his last fight, in a very good fight against Mateusz Gamrot. One where I got to applaud everybody still that took the plus money in that spot, because I really was not expecting Gamrot to come through the way that he did. So if you cashed that ticket, good on you. What a call. But before that, this man was on a rampage. Knocking out Christos Giagos, ground and pounding Yoel Alvarez. He beat Matt the Steamroller Frivola, Oban Mercier, who just won $1 million. Like, Islam Makhachev was the only guy that gave this man a run for his money. His ability to wrestle and scramble is unmatched. His I guess, besides Mateusz Gamrot. But he trains over at Tiger Muay Thai, one of my favorite MMA gyms, maybe the best MMA gym in the game today. You love everything there is to say about this kid. And the fact that he's only 26 years old makes it even more insane and impressive. Now, Damir Ismagulov, 24-1, is almost the same story, except that he's a little bit older. He's in his prime. He's 31 years old, and he's winning split decisions. Son of a bitch, over Guram Kutataladze. I'm so mad about the split losses I've had on Guram, because that's my guy. That's my dark horse, and he keeps on being on the wrong side of those damn things. But Thiago Moises also fought Yoel Alvarez, also fought Rafael Alves. Like, this guy has been doing the damn thing as well, and just holy crap, like, so many wins in a row. This is a big time, high level contender type of matchup. I am very excited to see this fight. And I talked about this last week, Locke. I am not the biggest wrestler in the world, right? Like, I wrestled when I was in elementary school and then quit because I wanted to play football. So I don't have the best eye for the pure wrestling. And that showed itself off in, the last fight where Gamrot was able to go ahead and get the better of Arman Tsarukyan. I don't read the wrestling skill sets as well as I would like to. I think I need to go put a singlet back on and get some coaching and some experience. I am not sure who's got the wrestling advantage here in this spot. We've seen Ismagulov is a guy who's incredibly difficult to take down, and he's even harder to keep there. The same can be said for Arman Tsarukyan. There's only been one or two guys that have ever been able to hang with him on the mat. I think this is going to be a competitive back and forth kind of fight. The thing about Ismagulov is that you're never quite sure he's winning the fight sometimes, because he just coasts, but he's always so in control. He's one of these guys that takes away your best opportunity and just exposes that one little chip in the armor that you might have that allows him to get a win. 63% striking defense, 90% takedown defense, an incredible takedown defense rating. This is going to be a close, tight fight. And if Arman Tsarukyan can't get the grappling going, I would not be shocked if Damir Ismagulov does what he does, death taxes, and Ismagulov by decision.
Yeah, I want to start off this breakdown by just shouting out their manager, who is the same guy. Shout out to my guy, Danny Rubinstein from Ruby Sports and Entertainment. Not often you see, guys on the same management team that are willing to fight each other, especially at this point in their career, where they're both kind of just on the cusp of that, a potential contendership, right? Even though Tsarukyan fell short in his last matchup against Gamrot, he's still right up there. He's definitely right up there. And Ismagulov is a guy that dealt with a lot of inactivity, even before the COVID era, but managing to finally get into the cage 3 times in the last 2 years. Not to mention, this is going to be his second time in the last 6 months. I think that's going to be an important aspect, because I thought we saw some ring rust in the Rafael Alves fight where he got dropped early and managed to get it together and still win the rest of that fight. We saw it a little bit in the Kutateladze fight. Close fight, could have gone either way, personally speaking, but I thought we saw some great things from him in that fight, especially his takedown defense, which I think is going to be huge for him here against Arman Tsarukyan, because I think without a doubt, Damir Ismagulov is the better technical striker here. He's so active and consistent with his lead hand and his jab that he just keeps sticking it in his opponent's face, and you see it bloody up Guram Kutateladze in that second round. That might have swayed the judges his way as well, like the consistent damage that he's putting on Guram that night. Same thing could happen here with Arman. Arman's striking game is a lot of kicks and a lot of like big power combinations, but nothing real meat and potatoes with the boxing or kickboxing. It's a lot of just big actions to eventually set up that takedown, which likely might not come here against Ismagulov. Man, Ismagulov is a very good defensive grappler in his own right, showcased it over and over again on the regional scene, fighting some of the toughest guys that you could potentially get fighting on that side of the world. And I've been very big on him for a long time since coming to the UFC. Right? He's 24-1. He only has that one loss way back in 2015 where he lost a decision. But since then, completely flawless. I believe that's that's almost 20 straight victories that he's had since that fight. Very tough guy to fight, very difficult style with his striking, with his defensive grappling. And I think that is ultimately going to be the difference maker here, is the fact that he should be able to keep this fight in the striking realm. And from there, he will likely have the advantage. So him as a plus 155 underdog, plus 160, no-brainer bet for me here. I love Arman. He's a great fighter. He is, he has a ton of potential, but every fight is based on styles. And Damir Ismagulov, in my opinion, is a bad style for him here. This should be a pick'em fight. Give me the underdog, Ismagulov, via decision.
Couldn't agree with you more, my guy. And that's, I was saying it, Damir Ismagulov by decision just seems to be the move for me. And that's what he's done his entire UFC career. Why would you rock that boat now? We're going to get sexier odds on it. You might want to just play the money line straight at this point, the way that it's looking. Like that's the way I'm looking here too. I agree with you on another live underdog. I don't want to downplay the improvements and the tweaks and adjustments that a young kid like Amir Albazi will be able to make between fights and in the off season. I think that's going to be a big story coming into this fight, is how much he's able to adjust and learn from his last fight and tweak things. But I can't get around the takedown defense of Ismagulov. I can't get around the fact that man knows exactly how to win MMA fights. I've talked about guys like Bobby Green, that they'll lose their minds out there and fight close because, man, they just want to fight. No. This Ismagulov is the exact opposite. He's the guy that goes out there methodically and says, I know exactly what I have to do to win this fight, and I will do it on repeat until I get my hand raised. He's a good soldier. Getting this man at plus odds is damn near criminal. We don't get this guy at plus odds. So I like the overs in this fight, and I think I like Ismagulov as an underdog, and the prediction for me is Ismagulov by decision.
Let's go.
All right, man.
So many good dogs this card. Jesus.
I told you, man. I think that there are a lot of underappreciated dogs this week. I think there's a lot of underdogs that are going to bark, and I think they're going to cause a lot of people problems. And we're coming off of a chalky main, pay-per-view card. A lot of people parlaying. This, I think, is the week where we might be able to snipe a couple of these underdogs. Some of them are short. There's one or two decent-sized dogs that I think are very intriguing. But I think we're very live in some of these spots. I think a lot of these fights are much closer than the lines suggest.
I count at least 7 underdogs that I love, by the way. Sorry, continue.
That's a lot. That is a lot.
I know.
All right, everybody. Main event time. I want to say one more time, thank you all so much for joining me and Locke. We've been going at this bad boy for 2 hours now, talking fights for you guys, providing the breakdowns and the entertainment. We love and appreciate you. Return the favor. Hit the like button. Subscribe here if you haven't already. Follow my guy, Manpreet, MMA Lock of the Night on Twitter. And here we go. Jared Cannonier taking on Sean Strickland. Oh, boy. Boy, howdy. Sean Strickland making his return. There's a lot of extreme couture guys and gals that are fighting very recently here, and they seem to be on a bit of a run, my guy. Like, a lot of these extreme couture fighters are rounding out their games, looking really good. The gym's getting hot right now. And Jared Cannonier, I love Jared, you guys. I really do. And I know he's got the crystals and all that, but at a certain point, this man is older and he is limited. Like, he does a couple of things really, really well. He's really big. He's really physically strong. But we have seen him out hustled by slicker strikers in the past before. Israel Adesanya, Robert Whittaker, like, these are championship tier fighters. So you don't want to steer too far over the top saying that, he's been outstruck by guys like that, because they're the best in the world, so obviously they were able to style on him a little bit. But Sean Strickland, you cannot match this guy's jab. He is so clean on the feet, high pace, constant pressure. And I think a lot of people are going to be expecting him or wanting to like bet against him because he got knocked out by Alex Pereira. Well, we just saw what Alex Pereira did to Israel Adesanya. That was, A1 worst game plan of all time. Sean Strickland coming into that fight, fought perfectly into the hands of his opponent, but he also was fighting into the hands of a world-class opponent who has gold around his waist right now. So at the end of the day, you can't knock him too hard for that. Sean Strickland has a habit of putting up 150 plus significant strikes. Like, that's unheard of. Nobody has that kind of pace. Nobody has that kind of speed and output. And Jared Cannonier is a guy who's been shut down before by more technical strikers, outstruck by people that have this kind of a game plan. I absolutely can see Sean Strickland coming out there. He's not going to learn, guys. He's not going to learn. Sean Strickland is not going to come out and grapple because of what happened in his last fight. We know exactly who and what this man is. He's going to do the same thing he always does. He's going to walk forward. He's going to jab really hard. He's going to put combinations together. He's going to go to the body. He's going to eat one or two big shots. He might wobble a little bit on the feet, but he's going to keep coming forward until he either gets knocked out or he breaks his opponent. Jared Cannonier is not an easy guy to break. He's not an easy guy to beat. He's not an easy guy to knock out or submit or anything like that. He does have some wrestling upside potentially, but he doesn't shoot that many takedowns. He's getting older. Like, I think Sean Strickland does what Sean Strickland does. I think this is Sean by decision here in this spot.
God damn it, Clint. Give me some space to have a different pick than you. God damn it. No, I agree with you, man. I think there's going to be some love on the Cannonier side because of the fact that Strickland just got knocked out by Alex Pereira. But what they will fail to realize is that they're two completely different strikers. You know what I mean? Alex Pereira, disciplined, world-class striker, big power in his hands, as we obviously know. Jared Cannonier, more so an explosive, likes to blitz into his attacks rather than just staying on the outside like Pereira is able to and land that devastating blow from distance. Sean Strickland, something that he's relied a lot in his career is he gets hit, but he rolls very well with shots. He doesn't really do much to get out of the way of the shots. He just leans back or uses head movement, and most of the times he eats the shots, but he can't eat it from a guy like Pereira who had the height and reach advantage going into that fight. With Jared Cannonier, somebody more so the size of Strickland and the guys that he's used to fighting, maybe it's the explosiveness and early speed advantage that Cannonier has, which could land him the knockout here. But I think that the durability issues of Strickland are going to be exaggerated this whole week because of that last loss to Pereira. I think the better striker here is Strickland. I think his output, his cardio, his pace, his pressure, it's going to be hard for a lot of guys to keep up with. And I think that's the issue here with Cannonier. Quickly touching on the grappling approach, which is viable for Sean Strickland's side. I just don't think that he will look to wear himself down by trying to get Cannonier down over and over again, right? Jack Hermansson struggled to get Cannonier down, gets knocked out for his efforts. Derek Brunson struggles to get Cannonier down, even almost hurts him and finishes him, gasses out Cannonier, comes back and knocks him out. So why would Strickland, a guy who has taken a round off in the past, I think it was I can't remember right off the top of my head, but there was one fight where he just took round 3 or round 4 completely off because he was just trying to get his facilities back about him, and then he was going to go out there and put the stamp on the fight. I think it was the Uriah Hall fight. I could be off on that, but
that sounds right.
I think we see him conserve his energy, do what he normally does, let his strikes go, put the pressure on Cannonier, outpoint him, outvolume him, win this fight via decision. I think the line that we're getting is a damn good line as well, even at -120, which is what it seemed to be pushing up to now. I like Strickland here, man. I think he bounces back in a decent way, and I'm likely going to be having an official money line bet on him myself.
Oh, man, we are in, if you will, lockstep this week. We just seem to agree on everything this card, which I do apologize for the listeners and the viewers. Shout out my guy, Couch Warrior Podcast. I know everybody likes a little dissension. I know everybody likes when we disagree and we have different takes. And we had one. I'm sorry there's not more of them. I really am. I like it when we can kind of debate a little bit more. But Locke and I are seeing this card very clearly. very much the same way. And I think we've got some barking dogs. I agree with you, man. I think this fight's going to be close. I think it'll be competitive, and just the volume and output of Sean Strickland, I think, is going to be what takes it. Even if it's a close decision, I think that's going to be what ends up getting it done. Jared Cannonier, at this stage of his career, at this age, coming off of a loss to a champion that just lost the belt, 38 years old, like, it's not going to get any better here, you know. And let's not forget, believe it or not, here's the tinfoil hat read of the week, guys. Sean Strickland has phenomenal jiu-jitsu. This thing's only getting to the ground one way, and if Jared Cannonier takes it to the ground, like, if Sean Strickland gets put on his back, there might be some Hail Mary submissions. There might be some triangle chokes, some reversals and sweeps. Like, there is some grappling upside here in this fight, but not because it's coming from Sean Strickland, because somebody else puts him in that position and he's forced to use it. So watch out for that. I'm gonna take a look at that sub prop when it comes out. I'm sure it won't be juicy enough to warrant it, because, like I said, Sean Strickland never follows the fucking plan. So that is UFC Vegas 66, your final card of 2022, everybody. Thank you all so much for sticking with us this entire time. If I'm speaking to you from the past and you're watching this thing or listening to it audio style, I appreciate you a little bit less than everybody who jumped in live. No, I'm just kidding. I love you guys just as much. Thank you all so much for the support. Seriously, doing all the content and stuff like that we do, it's for you guys. If you didn't support us, if you didn't care about us, if you didn't love us, we wouldn't be here doing it week in, week out. This has been a phenomenal year for content creators and for all the work that we've done. The group is growing, like the fan base is just getting bigger and bigger every single week, and we have you guys to thank for that, driving, our content and sharing it with people that you care about and stuff like that. So thank you. And Locke, I just want to give you a minute, your opportunity. Let the people know where they can find you, what other stuff you've got coming up and things like that, so they can follow you and support you as well.
Yeah, I appreciate the spotlight as always, Clint. I love doing these shows with you, especially when we just do the nitty gritty, break down the fights, try to get some bets out of it, and hopefully cash comes Saturday night. For myself, obviously, last event of the year, going to be busy this week. Also got some regional MMA, which I've been dipping my toes into over the last couple weeks. CFFC and Fury FC going down this weekend. I'm going to be doing a main event breakdown on my channel, MMA Lock of the Night, or MMA LOTN. So make sure you guys check that out. And then obviously doing full breakdowns on my own personal page. So make sure you guys go check that out. But my personal solo episode of this week's card breakdown for the UFC is going to be dropping tomorrow. So make sure you guys keep your eyes peeled for that. Just dotting my I's, crossing my T's with some more research tonight. But we'll be dropping my podcast tonight, propping you up with Cody on Thursdays. You guys already know the deal over there. Fridays, Ultimate Wayne Show making a comeback this week. I know some people wanted that, so make sure you check that out. But MMA Lock of the Night on social media, MMA LOTN on YouTube, social media, all that type of stuff. I'm sure you guys can find me if you type those words in. I appreciate everybody's love and support as always. And give my guy Clint some love as well. Drop that like, drop that subscribe, drop a comment as well. Let us know that we're absolutely crazy for picking against Michal Oleksiejczuk. Let us know if that we're crazy for taking the Damir Ismagulov side. But hopefully we can end up with some extra cash in our pockets this weekend once it's all set and done.
Absolutely. And Locke, something that you may be interested in, considering you're doing the regional scene MMA thing, is Spectation Sports. They're out there, guys, hosting the regional scene MMA, and they're also providing betting opportunities on some of these regional scene shows. So make sure you check out Spectation Sports. Make sure you subscribe using promo code DIEHARD. That'll get you a discount on it. And guys, last show of the year, like, what am I supposed to say? I always try to leave you guys with a nice, warm, heartfelt message. And I've sat up here on my pedestal and I've given you a lot of sermons over the course of 2022. I've been your degenerate preacher of sorts here. And I just want to wish you all merry, happy holidays. And you know what? It's funny. I was one of those people growing up, and I probably shouldn't admit this on camera, but I was one of those Merry Christmas people growing up. I was one of those people that's like, no, fuck you. It's okay to say Merry Christmas. It's nice to say Merry Christmas. But that's because, guys, don't forget there's other people out there. There's other cultures. There's other people that have other beliefs and have been raised differently from you. It's okay to say things like happy holidays, because if they don't share the same beliefs as you, that doesn't mean that you can't treat them like people. That doesn't mean that you can't reach across the aisle a little bit and see things from their perspective. And I just think this is the time of year where everybody needs a little bit of caring, a little bit of understanding. The holidays are really, really difficult for a lot of people. We see stuff like suicide rates and depression rates spike around this time of year. Let's do our best to not make this world worse on anybody else. We want that for ourselves. And if we start showing other people the kindness and caring that we are looking for in the world, we'll get that in return. So let's make the world a little bit better of a place one day at a time. It starts with us. Let's change this thing. Let's make it better. You guys go out there, have happy holidays, have a wonderful holiday season. We will be right back here on the podcast, and I'm sure Locke will be back in 2023 as well to share the spotlight here with me, doing shows for you, breaking stuff down. I do plan to come back probably a week early to do just kind of a special fun show for you guys. I talked about wanting to go over my 2022 betting card, the awful, destructive, horrific dumpster fire that it was, but go through every single bet that I made live here on stream and then talk with you guys so we can analyze it, dissect it, and learn from it and say, okay, was this in fact a bad bet where bad variance hit us, or was this an opportunity that we can maybe tweak a little bit going forward, learn from it, make it something? Was it not that bad? I want to go through that process with you guys. So I will be doing a stream like that at some point over the next couple weeks. Keep an eye out for it. But I will also be taking some time off to spend with the family because God forbid, guys, we don't get that many breaks in this game. There are MMA events every damn weekend. So I'm going to take a little bit of the opportunity around my personal favorite holiday to spend some time with the family and do a couple of less shows. But I will be back on Thursday for the Total Takedown, on Friday for the Undefeated Post Weigh-In show. And then, of course, we're all just going to absolutely pile up some bags this week at UFC Vegas 66. Go into the holidays, pay for those gifts, pay for that extra food, and then pay for the gym membership where we all try to lose that weight come January 1st. Thank you guys again so much. I know that was long-winded. I will let you go now. Be good. Kick some ass. Good luck on all your degenerate action. And as always, let's roll.